Are you searching for the best in online black radio? Then go to blacktalkradionetwork.com, helping you filter through the noise. Real talk, black talk.
The internet is full of half-truths and all-out lies. We've all seen them, and many people on social media complaining about it. Here's your chance to show and prove. WorldAfropedia.com is a black-owned and operated encyclopedia. There are several thousand articles, but we need help. We can't uncover all the truth ourselves. So please, join us and become a writer, editor, or blogger for WorldAfropedia.com today. Every little bit counts. We owe it to the future generations to put the truth out there. Visit WorldAfropedia.com, the African-centered encyclopedia, a global database of African knowledge for the purpose of bringing about global African wisdom and understanding. WorldAfropedia.com.
But you don't ever tell a white person, call a white person a racist. Why? You can't prove it. You ever tried? You can't prove it. On your job, you cannot prove it. You call a white person a racist, you got a problem. Because your problem is proving it. You're going to have to go and get a what? Another white person to prove it. If you don't believe it, try it. I don't care how many black people you line up and say, oh, yes, Mr. Crawford is a racist. I know because of, okay? And you take 50 black people down there and say that. Not good enough. But now if a white person says, I'll verify that, now you're making traction. If you don't believe it, try it. If you notice when they have settlements on the job and all like that, they never name anybody as a racist. They say we had a racial atmosphere here, or our statistics show that there was some racial discrimination. So we're going to give, the 30 black people here $20,000 apiece, but right. We'll settle, but we're not admitting any wrongdoing. See, and this should tell you something. See, racism exists, but there's no such thing as a racist. You can't find none. You can never find them in your office or in the warehouse, but they're out there somewhere. But nobody knows any of them. Okay, because they're not going to admit to it. That's a part of the system. Why? Once they start pointing to somebody, they know this. That's the worst indictment you can make. Once Mr. Crawford gets the official label as being a racist, he can't do nothing. All right? Because every black person, certainly, if I'm one of them, I'm going to bring it up. So you're an official racist, right? Just like an official child molester. Yeah, when you worked over here at Acme Paper Company, yeah, right. You got that label. So naturally I want your promotion. Y'all are not going to promote a racist, are you? This man got it on paper. He's a racist. See, they know this. This is why they're not going to name anybody. Except whom? The white person who names him or herself. All right? Because you got a lot of white people now who fly rebel flags and all like that, but they will never say that they're racist. I'm not a racist. I just believe in states' rights. Correct? But there ain't no racists. There are no racists on this planet. But there's racism. You figure that out. So the trick is, how much of your history do you need to know? You need to know just enough to solve your problems. That's all you need. Just enough to... This is your existence on this planet with the little time that you're here is all about problem solving. It's not about nothing else. You are put here to solve problems. Where is the evidence of this? Because when you're born, that's the first thing you run into. That's why you come here screaming. All right? You are put here to solve problems. And the biggest problem that you are put here to solve is always right in front of you. And that's what? The so-called race problem. That's why we are here tonight. In the year 2001. This mess is supposed to have been cleared up a long time ago. So we haven't been on our assignment. We've been concentrating on everything else except that. That's why I say this is the most patriotic thing that you can do, is sit up here trying to talk about solving the race problem. That's why I tell people, when I was on the job, I had a what they call a top security clearance, and this book was out. This book right here. Right, a union lady. Right, she came to me one day because somebody showed her the book on the job. See, I don't go around looking over my shoulder because I'm not doing anything that I haven't been told to do. Always stay in position to say, I'm just doing what I'm told, sir, ma'am, Right. Fight racism and replace it with justice. Don't get no better than that. You want to wave the flag, wave it around that. It doesn't get no better than that. So the lady came up to me and said, Fuller, I heard you wrote a book, and I think I saw it. I said, yeah. And she looked around, and she said, do they know in the security office about this book? I said, I would hope so. She said, but you got some pretty, way out stuff in there. I said, like what? See, that's what I mean by details. I said, all I talk about all through the book is replacing white supremacy with justice. I said, that's motherhood and apple pie. It don't get no better than that. I say, so if anybody has a problem with it, tell them to come talk to me. And I'd like to do it in an open forum, Right. That's another thing on the job. Always try to have somebody there as a witness. Yeah. Now, the black person that you take there, don't ask them to say nothing because then they ain't going to show up. Okay? Because they don't want to lose their job. Really. See, this is strategy. See, be able to, and you be mad at them the next day because they didn't come. All right? So you head all that off to start with. Say, look, Alice, I want you to come. I want you to bring, Henry with you. And I've already told them that I'm just going to pick two people at random, and all I want you all to do is just sit there and listen. So that when these people say that they didn't say such thing later on, I got witnesses. See, and chances are everybody watches themselves when you do that. See, I know because I've been in situations like that where, where a person just say, well, I say, well, wait a minute, you're going to get me all messed up? You going, I don't know what you're doing and all that. I don't want you to do anything. Just come. We're going to have a meeting tomorrow. They're going to have me on the griddle. You just sit there and listen. And don't say nothing. And they will know that you're just there just to listen. All right? While everybody's talking back and forth. And that's the way you do it. The reason for this is people get stuff mixed up. See, when you're in there alone. All right? And if it's a white supremacist, he will, with a straight face, will say, I didn't say that. You misinterpreted that, No, you got it all wrong. Brian, did I say that? I don't remember saying that, And then you will start doubting yourself. But if Cecilia's sitting there who want to know everybody's business anyway, and she's a witness, she'll say, well, I remember you saying that, Mr. Jones. I remember. Remember me? I was sitting right here. Right? See? And chances are they'll be careful about what they say. See? And you can get more done. If you can. Can't always do it, but if you can, just tell them you'd like for someone to come in there and just sit and listen to what's going on.
Context of White Supremacy. Gus T Renegade in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the system of white supremacy. Today's date, Thursday, August 4th, 2016. So I have been told this is our weekly forum on workplace racism. We encourage folks to dial in if you have codified strategies, techniques to help minimize problems on the job, problems with suspected racists, problems with other non-white coworkers, anything that is helpful for you to stay on the job as long as you wish, get all of your benefits, raises, promotions, avoid any write-ups, terminations, all of that stuff, demotions. Certainly encourage anyone, if you are what they call self-employed, black business owner, we certainly want you to be one of the first to dial in with a hand up. If you have commentary, suggestions on how racism has impacted you as an entrepreneur, if it has not been a problem for you at all, if you have figured out how to go into business for yourself and totally vanquish any problems with white supremacy, racism, we certainly want you to be one of the first people to dial in with a hand up to share techniques on how you did that so that the rest of us can emulate what you have done. Even if you have figured that out and you're not self-employed, if you work for someone else but you have still figured out, this is how you permanently solve problems with racism on the job. They will not pester you for 30 seconds. You don't have to endure any racist jokes, any unjust treatment. All of that will fall to the wayside. You will be A-okay for as long as you wish to have a career with that particular employer. Feel free, dial in. Please, don't just feel free. Please, we are begging that you dial in if you are in that glorious position. Dial in. The number is 641-715-3640. The code is 564-943#. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. Certainly, folks, if you are having difficulties, problems, you want to share and get some feedback, what have you, possibilities, ways that you might be able to handle things, that certainly is always welcome as well. The number again, 641-715-3640. The code is 564-943#. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. Certainly want to remind folks as well, policy and procedure, extremely important. I've been encouraging for a month or so, go through your policy and procedure. That's something you do not want to wait until there is an issue, some sort of conflict on the job, and then be trying to comb through policy and procedure 5 minutes before you're supposed to have a meeting with a supervisor or what have you to discuss whether or not you're going to be demoted or written up or terminated. Just take, you can break it up, as I've been saying all along, you can break it up and read 10, 15 minutes per evening and do that over a week or even 2-week period, and you should be able to get through the entire thing at your leisure. And then you can highlight, you can make observations. You might even see some things that are not clear, so you can ask questions. I know most of the jobs that I've been on, if it's something formal, an office setting, they have weekly or monthly meetings where you can get an opportunity to ask questions. Hey, I read the policy and procedure, and as an employee at this company I signed on, I'm supposed to abide by these rules. This particular rule here on page 105 is not clear, or at least I don't understand it. I want to make sure that I am without any ambiguity around this policy that I am expected to comply with. And it might even be some other people who are not clear about it. So I always think that's great if there are any aspects of your policy and procedure that you think are important, are confusing, or at least have significant wording where you could see where it might be a way, just based on the words that are used in the specific procedure, policy, that might allow for racism to be practiced. Certainly dial in and share that. I just think it's really good. That comes up so frequently. Just paying attention to the rules on the job and holding white people to those rules and how they treat non-white employees. With that, a couple folks wrote in a few scenarios. We want to share those before we get started, as well as one of the articles. Workplace racism is always in the news in terms of something happening, allegations of mistreatment on the job or racism being practiced on the job. It's there on a regular basis. This one right down the road from me in Oregon, black worker sues Precision Cast Parts, claiming coworker said he couldn't be seen during power outage. And this is from 2 days ago. Former African-American employee of Precision Cast Parts has filed a $600,000 lawsuit against the industrial parts maker, claiming he was the target of racist comments and ultimately fired after he complained about a hostile supervisor to the company's human resources department. Carvin Glover's lawsuit states that during his 19 years on the job, he was subjected to unwanted comments from coworkers and supervisors, including he was assigned to certain work because of his race, and that the employee who told him that used the N-word to describe his race. He was referred to as darkness because he was the darkest person here. He couldn't be seen during a power outage. Black people can't swim because their bone structure is different. Precision Cast Parts declined comment on Tuesday, stating it doesn't comment on pending litigation. The suit was filed last week in Multnomah County Circuit Court. Glover is in his mid-40s. He held various jobs at the company and most recently worked as a mold machine specialist. Precision Cast Parts makes parts for the aerospace and defense machinery as well as industrial gas turbines. The company is headquartered in Portland and employs more than 30,000 working at 162 factories worldwide. I will just get in one more paragraph. It says, Glover complained in January 2015 that he was being scrutinized on the job, treated rudely, and called while at home and yelled at and excluded from meetings, the suit says. Non-African American workers weren't subjected to the same treatment, he alleges. Just one of the things, just in terms of words, where they say Glover complained in the last paragraph that I read, that he complained. They actually have that a couple times. That's in the very first paragraph as well, that he ultimately racist comments, and ultimately he was fired after he complained. That's one of the things that I've stated consistently. You want to report. I think Mr. Fuller emphasizes that all the time. You are not submitting a grievance, a gripe, a complaint. You are making a report of incorrect behavior, possible, as he stated, subversion. These are the type of words that you want to use, not that I just have a gripe or that my feelings were hurt. I have a complaint. That is not the type of language that you want to use. It puts it in the framework as though you are just a sensitive little child and need to be treated as such, not as an adult who is reporting misconduct, incorrect behavior, violations of policy and procedure. Moving forward, and make sure I get my plug in as well. Mr. Fuller's books are available, producejustice.com. The updated code book available now, producejustice.com, producejustice.com. You can get your word guide there as well. All right, folks wrote in as well. We had at least two people who wrote in who had topics they wanted to share for workplace racism. This is listener number one. I work in an environment that is highly refined. Nonetheless, the usual suspects often gossip and spread information among themselves. They, more than anyone else, engage in constantly complaining, nitpicking, passive-aggressive sarcasm, or tacky, borderline terroristic behavior against or about me particularly. I am the quietest and most polite person at my workplace, being regarded as one of the hardest workers. Nonetheless, I'm often used as a scapegoat for subtle aggressions when suspects in general are tired, frustrated, or otherwise malcontent with their work conditions. In other words, the degree of tackiness tends to ebb and flow with the general mood of my workplace suspects. Oftentimes, I am expected to work several times harder than other employees, even non-whites. When I do not, I am the most convenient recipient of blame. Question. When I am talked down to, i.e. confrontational tone, sarcastically regarded, or subtly scapegoated in a way that does not necessarily breach company policy, how do I respond when I'm afraid that my response, if contrary, will cause these suspects to step into that next phase of mistreatment, i.e. perform like Voltron. I get the feeling that my supervisors don't want to fire me at this point given the necessity of my hard work, but they and their subordinates find the act of despising and belittling me a sort of sport. Should I continue to not respond to these suspects, even when doing so begins to affect my mood at home? I'm known to fumble with words, and I'm not the best with back and forths. So does anyone have any tips on simple retorts or questions to ask whenever I am directly approached with such subtlety? Response number one, I'll share a few of my thoughts on what this listener wrote in, as well as we are moving along. We had also one other person that wrote in. One thing that I will say quickly, I think with that one, I would encourage if you can record the types of things that are said, and that way it's not that I'm going in just to make a report that this person said this to me or was talking to me in a manner that I don't think is professional or in a manner that I don't think is consistent with us having a courteous and respectful work environment, and also seems to be a little bit different than the way that others in the office are talked to. I would wait so that you kind of have a record where this is a pattern of this sort of thing happening on a large scale and just document on a case, that way you can just go date, time, boom, January 5th, 2016, February 23rd, 2016, March 1st, 2016, this was said, and boom, 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 this is exactly what was said, boom, 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 boom. That way it's a pattern of this sort of thing has been happening over a period of time, and I've noted that other people, it doesn't seem that everyone is treated equally. It doesn't seem that everyone is talked to in this same kind of way, and I understand that some people may feel that they're just joking, but is this the best way that we want to talk to other employees in this sort of work environment? Is this going to maximize us working together as a team to get things done? I'd present it in that sort of manner, but I have a few other thoughts as well. I'll share as we go. Certainly, listeners are encouraged to share their thoughts to the questions proposed also. Next listener wrote in, and I'm going to use Jane Jones. We'll just make up an arbitrary name because names are important to this piece. So I'm just going to use Jane Jones. Okay. I hope that all is as well as can be expected or better. The reason for this correspondence is to provide what I believe to be an example of how the use of words can deflect a potential problem in the workplace. Thank you for the opportunity to share. I was advised to contact a more knowledgeable employee by telephone in order to perform my assigned duties efficiently. During the telephone conversation, the more knowledgeable employee, a suspected white man, asked for my name. I informed him that I prefer to be called Jane or Miss Jones. The suspected white man responded by stating, "Well, for the next 2 weeks, I'll be calling you Jane because I just started working in this department and I'm still in training." My response was, "No, that is unacceptable. You may call me..." Actually, this person is requesting their middle name, not their first name. So you can call me my middle name or Miss Jones, last name. Then I proceeded to ask questions in reference to my purpose for calling him. At the end of the telephone conversation, I asked the suspected white man for his name, reminded him of what I prefer to be called, and told him to enjoy the rest of his day. 2 days later, I was asked to meet with the assistant director for what I suspect was supposed to be a reprimand. The assistant director, a black female, according to her words, informed me that she received an email from upper management stating that I exhibited unfriendly behavior, quote unquote, toward another employee. I did not respond. She continued by asking me if I remembered the telephone conversation with the alleged victim of unfriendly behavior. She then stated the call was recorded and I want you to take a listen to it. As the recorded telephone conversation began, I immediately noted and stated that only my voice was audible. The assistant director then stated, "There must be something wrong with my computer." As she continued to troubleshoot for the technical issue, I stated that I needed clarification on the purpose of the meeting. She paused, and the following exchange took place as best I can recall. Assistant Director, like I stated earlier, I received an email from upper management stating that you were exhibiting unfriendly behavior toward another employee. I was told that I needed to listen to the telephone conversation and meet with you about it, because I was thinking that maybe you were just having a bad day. So the person writing in responds, "I'm still not clear on the purpose of this meeting. Were you informed of why you needed to listen to the telephone conversation and meet with me?" Assistant Director, "Well, I was able to listen to the telephone conversation previously, and I told him that he was not going to call you by your first name, and when you were hired, your name was full government name. I mean, that's what's on your file, what's on your social security card, and what's on your driver's license." Our listener, "My name has been," again, we'll just use Jane Jones, middle name as well, "since my birth, as it is documented on my social security card and driver's license. But unfortunately, I'm still not clear about the purpose of this meeting. Are you meeting with me because I informed another employee of what I prefer to be called?" Assistant Director, "In my opinion, I don't know why he didn't just give you the information you were requesting and end the call. I mean, it's not a big deal. It's not an issue. I just wanted you to take a listen to the telephone conversation. It's not an issue. Sometimes I may slip up and call you by your first name, but if that's what you prefer to be called, just let us know. We'll just have to change the information for the phone ID, but it's not a big deal. It's not an issue. I just wanted to meet with you in reference to the email I received from upper management." Our listener, "Okay, just for clarity, are you stating that email you received about my alleged unfriendly behavior from upper management is not an issue?" Assistant Director, "No, it's not an issue. You didn't do anything wrong. I just wanted you to take a listen to the recording and tell me if you think you handled the call correctly." Our listener, "Okay, thank you for clarifying. And to the best of my knowledge, I handled the call correctly. Thank you for asking." Assistant Director, "Okay, you can go back and finish your assigned duties." End of incident meeting. Once again, extremely important, the use of words and asking questions to ask, and if you don't understand or if they don't answer your question, heavens knows that happens frequently on this here program. We're talking to white people, and even when talking to a lot of victims of racism, where your question does not get answered. You can be courteous, you can be polite, and ask again if you need to rephrase the question, but ask again until you are satisfied that your question has been answered, and also getting them to state clearly if it's sounding as though this is a reprimand or you're being talked to as though you did something wrong. Make sure everybody is crystal about whether or not you actually committed some sort of violation, and exactly, I mean, down to the semicolon, down to the period, what is the nature of the violation I committed if I am being accused of doing something wrong. Get that like crystal, no confusion, no ambiguity at all. I think this is also, we've talked about names for eons in terms of the disrespect of black people's titles and the nicknames and not pronouncing your name correctly and just all of that. This is long-running aspect of white tackiness in not calling black people by our proper names or not calling us what we wish to be called. Just, again, phenomenal illustration of black self-respect to make it clear. No, you're not going to just decide that you're going to call me anything. That is not acceptable. This is my name. This is what I prefer you to call me every time, no exceptions. And just say that as often as it needs to be said. And then, beautiful, ask, is it incorrect for me to state what I prefer to be called on the job? And anybody who says, oh yeah, that's totally incorrect, you don't get to tell us, what your name, no problem, just get that in writing and then see if that applies to everybody. We can just make up nicknames about everybody in the company, the CEO, the custodians, anybody that works here. We can just make up names about what we want to call them, every hour on the hour. I'll give you a brand new name and I'll just call you that, and you're going to answer to it every time. Just see if that applies to everyone equally across the board in the company. Great illustrations. If other folks have things that they want to write in, if for whatever reason you're not able to call in live to share, you can drop an email untiljustice@gmail.com, untiljustice@gmail.com. With that, we'll go ahead and hit folks who dialed in who have a hand up. Again, the number is 641-715-3640. The code is 564943#. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. Folks who dialed in who have a hand up should be with us. And again, this is not a program for spectators. This also applies to the compensatory call-in each Saturday. This is not a program for people to dial in and just, I'm going to kick back and see what Gus and the callers have to say and whatever interesting incidents they have to share this week. That is not what this is designed for. This is designed for victims of racism to share. Again, we have listeners. Some of our listeners are younger, so they don't have a lengthy work experience. They have articulated it is helpful for them to hear about things that have happened to people on the job so they can know the types of things that happen and even get some ideas about how to respond to these type of incidents so that they can be better equipped going out and beginning their career. I think it's also helpful, regardless of how old the victim of racism is, just to know that these sort of things are extremely common. I think a lot of times we end up thinking that it's something defective about us personally that brought this about, that is something whack about us. Nothing could be further from the truth. This is standard operating procedure. There are tons, probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of black people worldwide who are experiencing very similar situations on the job. I think we just oftentimes don't know how common it is that these things happen to black people on the job. So I think that also makes it extremely important to share things that are happening. And particularly if you are self-employed, black entrepreneurs, you work for yourself, get on this here line. If you have figured out, hey, you just have to be an entrepreneur and you don't have to deal with racism anymore, we need to know that, like explicitly in detail how you did that, even if you do work for someone else and you don't have any problems with racism on the job. But we need all of the details and probably an extensive report as your career evolves as to how you have managed to successfully thwart racism in the area of labor. With that, the folks who dialed in who have commentary they would like to share, line should be open. Feel free to share if you have your own situations or if you want to respond to anything that I've read thus far.
Good evening. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was going to say, in regards to participating, I'll share with you a couple of things that's helped me with racism in the job place, and I actually heard it more or less through Dr. Francis Cress Wellesley on his station. A couple of years, I work in a law enforcement environment, and of course, you're dealing with a lot of racist, so-called white people, and sometimes even people that look like us. We're dealing with that just from, I would say, in the response of jokes, whatnot, and that's not something that I would prefer to sit around and partake in. And until I start kind of studying and listening And on programs like this, I just endured it, you know. But but more on the recent note, I would have people make comments. And when I feel that it's inappropriate, I just approach them in a simple manner and start asking questions. Well, let me ask you this. Would you, for example, someone mentioned something about race or their perspective of what they think about blacks or President Obama, for all I care. I mentioned to them and say, hey, do you believe that this is proper content to be speaking about in the workplace right now? And, of course, you'll get their answers, and I will then, my actual response after that will be, well, how about this? Before we discuss that, how about I email or call up upper management and find out if this is proper content, then we can continue with this conversation. I've noticed by doing that, I have, besides getting on a lot of people's nerve with that, I've had quite a few people just disregard speaking to me in periods, which is all right by me because these are people I wouldn't partake in conversations with anyway. But those are just some of the, I think I heard Francis say something along like, let's get permission from upper management. And then if they say it's okay, then by all means, we can discuss this however you want to. That way there's nothing, that way you shift the responsibility on the company, the corporation, et cetera, et cetera. But just in quick, that was just something that helped me out. And I've shared that with a few people who are, oh my God, I can't believe that this dude would say that. And it's like, you don't have to sit there and take it. Just ask them if they would like to share that with the people who make the decisions about how they get their paycheck. Because I noticed that one of the things they do is they will like to keep discussing these to get a response out of you. They're always trying to get a response out of us, especially as black people. They tend to use words that they know will trigger some type of reaction. And then in return, if you say, well, you know what, I'll slap the hell out of you or something like that, then you're in the wrong. Of course, that's threatening him. So I just took myself out of the situation. That don't know if that helped, but wanted to share it.
Great suggestion. Yes, I think that was Thomas. Oh, getting a little bit of background noise. Folks are.
Yeah, I'm driving on the way home. I'll mute my line. How do I mute the line?
Oh, right on. I don't think it was coming from your line, though. I think that was one of our other callers. The person that dialed in, I think you might be on the VOP line. I think we heard you at the very beginning. Were you going to comment? And then we'll check Thomas's line as well. Thomas in New York, we'll check him after this. The person on the VOP line, did you have a comment you wanted to share, sir?
Yes, sir. I was going to bring up a situation at my workplace. I have a relatively young, I'll say probably in his early 30s. Again, I'm in the military. So, people get into telling stories about, what they've done or experienced in the military. But anyway, this guy, he practices racism on many, many different levels. For one thing, he likes to, let's say he's given a task or he's given something to do, and it's like a relatively simple thing to complete, but he likes to draw it out and make it seem as though it was some arduous task that had to be done, and he had to, I'm just going to give an example. Like if his job was to walk to the door and open the door, and it took him 2 hours to do that. So he would be asked, hey, what were you doing for the last 2 hours? He said, okay, yeah, I had to go walk to the door and open the door. But what happened was I took one step and then I had to, kill a bee that was flying by. Then I took another step and then it started to rain, so I had to get my umbrella, and then I had to go grab this, and then I had to do that. Then I took another step, and there was a pothole in the, sidewalk, and I tripped up. I hurt myself. I had to go to the hospital, and blah, blah, blah. He is the epitome of buckets and buckets of words. So he tries to make the things that he does more important than it is. Again, he really talks up the things that he does when it's really just simple tasks. And also he likes to confuse people again with buckets and buckets of words. So if he has a certain technical expertise, so and of course he would have a little more knowledge than other people, but he would throw some extra words when describing what needs to be done. Let's say something needs to get fixed, and he would say, "Oh, the modulator and the blah 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 and this and that and then the so and so." And he would just continue to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk until I think his goal is to just get you to stop questioning him so that he can just run free, take as long as he would like to do, and take as long as he would like to in doing simple tasks and making it seem as though he carried out some great, timely, arduous, time-consuming job. But anyway, he gave me a story today. Again, I feel like I get hijacked for my time by racists. He was telling me a story about, military members. We typically have to go inside a gas chamber, and we test our gas masks to see if they function well, see if we can take them off in a timely fashion, put them back on, and just see how we react to the gas, like kind of like the gas. It's like we call it the gas chamber. And he's describing, oh man, what is up with he tells me, what is up with black people? It seems like they cannot take that gas. Like it's really, really, really hard on them. Like they really just cannot take it. And it's what he's saying is idiotic. It's racist. And so he describes this particular black male that went to the gas chamber when he went, and he's describing this guy as the biggest man on earth practically. He's like, man, this guy was huge, and he had some crazy name. Like he just sounded like the guy had an African name, but of course to racist it's going to be a crazy weird name. He was like Moomba or something like that, and I'm like, okay, or whatever. And this guy is just so huge. And of course, if you let him tell it, this guy was probably 7 foot plus, 300 plus pounds, but in reality he's probably like 6'1", 190 or something. But of course they just pump, and this big, very dark skinned big dude, he went in the gas chamber and he just starts crying and panicking and going crazy and stuff. And, he comes out of the gas chambers, and the instructors, they have to, he grabbed the instructor and kind of lifted him up off the ground and pinned him on the wall. And then all the other instructors had to subdue him. So it took like 7 or 8 people to subdue this big black, guy that, just doesn't know how to operate his gas mask, and just he's really averted to the gas that they put in the gas chamber. And, I'm just listening to that. And he was like, man, I just don't understand why black people are like that. Like, so, and this guy he's very methodical. He is a logical guy, but racists, they operate on normal. They have a logic to them. Then they have their racist logic to where they'll turn anything to fit their racist, their racist ideology. They'll just turn it into something. Oh, black people, they'll have one story and then they'll turn into, well, it seems like all black people just cannot, function in the gas chamber, and they don't know how to function. They use their gas mask. And that's pretty much my story. Thanks for letting me share.
Fascinating, fascinating. Sort of reminiscent of what the worker down in Oregon who has a 600,000 lawsuit filed. That sort of thing is just standard operating procedure on the job. I think for some people, they can just listen. It doesn't bother them. Just listen, record, take note if you're so inclined. For other people, it bothers them a little bit more. I like with the first caller, his suggestion about asking, is this appropriate commentary for the job to be talking about this? And, is this something we should check in with our supervisor to see if this is appropriate commentary for the job? If this is really bothering you and making it difficult for you to effectively concentrate and perform your work duties, I think that works as well. But that's the sort of thing I think is just going to be standard on all types of jobs where they're making those types of comments, finding some way to disparage and broadcast their contempt for black life. That's just to be expected. That's what it means to be classified as white. Other folks, if you either have commentary to what you've heard from the callers or the commentary I read at the beginning of the program, or if you have your own situation you want to touch on, let me check with Thomas in New York to see if we have a quieter line now. Thomas in New York, are you there, sir?
Yes, sir. I apologize for that, Gus. Just as I started to talk, my wife came in and started talking, so I apologize. I have two to share, but I just wanted to make comments on the caller, not the caller, the two you read earlier. For the first guy, it seems to me like if people are calling you names, out of your name, making jokes or negative comments towards you, I believe one of the things that I picked up from listening to workplace racism is I would probably get a pen and pad and write down what they say right in front of them, interesting, And every time that happens, I would do that. And I'll bring my pen and pad with me into the next meeting that they have for the department, with the heads, with the people that's not there all the time. And I will, when it gets time to question and answer time, I will raise my hand, and I'll pull out my pad, and I'll read everything I was called, and ask if that was appropriate language in the workplace, if they felt like that was appropriate language in the workplace. I wouldn't name any names. Everyone to know, well, exactly, and I think everyone would get the point. I don't know if that would be effective in his work environment or not, because, he's not, in the line to tell, exactly what's going on. Also, I just wanted to make a comment for the lady who wants to be called by her middle name, not her first name. Now, in my codification, personally at work, I call everybody by the name that's listed, their name. I don't, white people always want to give themselves nicknames, Jim, call me Jim, or call me, call me Will, or call me Jen, I call them Jennifer, William, Jimmy, whatever's on there, or James, but whatever's on there comes up on their phone line, that's what I call them. And I don't feel like I'm obligated to call them by anything other than that. So I'm not sure if I feel like they're in the wrong in that situation. It's kind of, like my wife, she doesn't go by her first name. I mean, I didn't even know she had a different first name until, she goes by her middle name, but every document she has over the years, it has been changed to that. So, if she goes to a job, that's the name that she would put as her first name. So that's what they would call her. That was all I had so far. I do have my own to share, but I could wait for other people to make their comments.
Other folks who have commentary, either if you have your own incident or if you want to respond to anything that you've heard thus far, feel free.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I am the caller that wrote actually the week before last. I was unable to call, so I wrote my little incident of tackiness at the pharmacy in the country part of Florida. And I think you had some more questions about that. I really couldn't flesh it out as well as I wanted to when I wrote in, but I'm calling in to clarify the whole scenario. That's why I was a fill-in pharmacist, and the customer comes up and talks about his manuscript, to the one technician, then goes on to the next one to talk to the next technician. I pick up a phone to answer nurses' questions, and by the time I finish the call, he switched from his manuscript about kicking a drug habit to talking about of all the people he could have helped, including the people who had 200 IQ picking cotton, and all the people that are hung. And I was just kind of shocked by that.
Oh, yes, sir. I thought you had more. Yeah, I remember. Yes, sir. I remember. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was it. I mean, that was a little absurd.
It's getting late.
I hadn't seen anything before.
All right.
Sorry, we had some.
And I remember you mentioned that you wanted me to call in, or you have some more questions or what have you about the scenario.
Right. I number one, I think the same response that you had. Like, it was just like, wow, it seemed like there was such an abrupt shift in what they were talking about in terms of how they got to this point of talking about, the IQ of cotton pickers and what that has to do with what you all are doing in the work environment anyway. It beyond the bizarreness of it all in terms of I don't even know what I would do with that in a workplace situation other than, just try and see if I can, come to some grasp of maybe even just asking because it just seems so wild. Like, what exactly are you all talking about? Not from I'm upset or offended.
No, I wasn't upset. No, this was actually like one of the patients coming in to pick up his meds. Because I worked with two white women who were technicians. And so it's just like a little tacky behavior by the patient. It just kind of blew me away. I've heard some other comments when I filled in that before about, I think a few weeks ago I filled in, and when the customer said something about pharmacy with a tan. It is what it is. It's rural Florida. But that was, I just never heard anything quite like that, though. Well, not a period, a few years at least.
They were talking about you when they said pharmacist with a tan, or?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, this part of Florida, Central Florida, just west of Alachua County or Gainesville, independent closest pharmacy. The demographics of the county, because I normally look it up, it's about like 90-something% white. So when they have a fill-in from a few hundred miles away that doesn't look like they're the routine pharmacist, I pretty much stand out, But the comments definitely weren't called for. But, it is what it is. I'm not surprised. Wasn't surprised by it.
Did you find out what was the IQ of the cotton picker?
No. After the patient left, the techs were talking amongst themselves. So I can tell. Well, just from doing it for a period of time, I can tell he probably had his own issues in the past. So that's why he had to talk about the manuscript. But it's still such a leap or such a stretch to go from talking about a manuscript about waiting till the next dose and not taking your pain meds early to helping all the people that were in the cotton fields and behind a mule and then were hanging. Hey. But it was so absurd. I had it right in. That was it. That was just really above the norm of what I normally experience in my profession.
I concur. You in that same letter, I think you had also mentioned that you had the white woman who was less qualified, substantially less qualified than you, that got the better position, I guess, supervisor, or whatever it is, the better position.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It is what it is. Sure, she's only been out of school 5 years. She's competent enough. But ironically, I don't have any complaints with her because with the employer I have right now, a southern-based grocery chain, when we work our shifts, we don't overlap. So it's that the technician's the one that transfers information back and forth. And so my previous manager was a non-white female. Actually, we have similar social circles. So wouldn't I have an issue? But somehow, when that technician was there, that white technician that she thought very highly of, there would always be something, And it's like, I'm not new to this. I've been doing this for a couple of decades. So when they left, and even though I do have the white so-called manager now, the new technician is brand new, non-white, non-black. So she doesn't know enough to cause any friction, and it's really been as smooth as it can be. So. So the big thing is that little one white female technician is gone now. That's what I saw. That was my observation.
Wow. Stay tuned. I'm sure there will be more coming down the pike, either from her or whatever other shifts or customers even. It seems like that contribute. I guess that's a whole nother aspect too. I don't know if we've had too many folks in terms of having clients where the racism is not necessarily coming from your coworkers or supervisors or anything like that. But
ironically, Gus, I was because normally catch these. I catch these. Yeah. Yeah, I will get the line, but I will admit I reflected for the time I've been working in retail from the late '80s up until now, how normalized the smaller acts of racism have been. It's almost like you just take it for what it is and do the best you can in the system. With that, let somebody else speak.
Absolutely. I think that's the case for the vast majority of non-white people. Like, we just go through these experiences. Same thing, the report that I read at the beginning, the black male worker in Oregon, where he said he had been working there for 19 years, with them calling him darkness and calling him nigger and saying that they couldn't see him in the dark. And again, this is why I emphasize this is not a spectator program. It is very important, I think, not just for people, victims of racism, black people, to hear about these incidents and suggestions on how to respond if you should unfortunately have to deal with some of this stuff, but also to hear that this is incorrect, and that there are strategies, there are things that you can do for quite a bit of this stuff to stop it from happening, so that you don't have to get in that mind state of helplessness that it's just nothing that can be done. Some of the things, it's not going to be a whole lot. Sometimes that is the case. But for a lot of this, there are things that you can do to stop, to minimize some of these things from happening. And even if you do not, even if you're not in a position, you don't have the power at that moment to stop some of these things, but just not normalizing that as, it's no big deal and just going on, but recognizing that racism, white supremacy is being practiced. This is an incident of it right here from, Bob, Susan, whoever, Helen, whoever else that you're working with, or even if it's clients that you're serving on the job. I think that's incredibly important. Other folks who appreciate the clarification, our caller down in Florida, other folks who dialed in who have a hand up if you had, I guess, commentary or questions on what you heard from folks so far, or if you have your own incidents, feel free.
Yeah, have you heard?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, yeah, I was the first person. I spoke in regards to my workplace environment earlier, and I just had some more to add to it. Because when I used to listen to programs like yours, and I, listen to other people like Millie Fuller, and I have the kids in the car, I know that I've noticed that I will be reserved on playing it too loud, confusing them without explaining it, until I got to the point where I understood exactly how important it is for us as black people to actually allow our kids to hear this, understand it, talk about it, and it became pretty evident because you're speaking on workplace racism today. Just recently, I was traveling in one of the southern states, and I was at the airport, and I'm looking at this girl at the ticket counter at the airport. She's trying to work two gates at one time, but she's yelling over the radio for some guy. I guess we'll just use John. She's yelling for John. I mean, she yelled for him about 10 times. Tell John, come up. He's on this gate. He's supposed to be helping out. And immediately, I'm just thinking, like, this got to be the worst employee ever. If she called, clearly you could tell that she was the authority figure there and knew what she was doing. She was yelling for John, but the minute when John walks up out of the gate, she spots him and tells him, hey, you're working this one. He looks her in the eye and says, I'll log in real quick. And then within 30 seconds, John took off again. Customers standing at that gate can't load the plane, et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, if you could have seen, like how frustrated she was, and for me, just kind of getting a better understanding, by far I'm still a baby learning with the racism, how this racism, white supremacy works. But just to understand and see her as frustrated as she was, I mean, the girl almost was in tears. It was, she was assistant. She was almost in tears. Now, afterwards, after the commotion, he finally checked the people in or whatnot. I went up to her and I talked to her, and then and she, good thing I was there because she needed to vent to someone, and she was just expressing that she basically is in a horrible situation. She come from, let's say, I think she said somewhere like up north, Pennsylvania, New York area, and she's never had to deal with the amount of racism that she's dealing with in this particular work environment. And I told her it's because she's not recognizing, and of course, a lot of that has to do with how our parents bring us up in this understanding. You can't be surprised about something you already expect to happen. The guy, the ticket guy that she was calling for, he happened to be a white male. She was informing me he was ex-military, et cetera, and he was hired by one of the upper managers, and this guy, she is his supervisor, and he feels untouchable right now because she asked him to do something weeks ago. He got pissed off. He threw his radio. He embarrassed her in front of everyone, and the general manager, who was another black lady, she didn't do anything. She suspended him. He was called back by the VP to come back to work, which now makes both the general manager and his immediate supervisor look like an idiot, like as if he can do whatever he want to do. And I told her, I'm sitting here within a matter of 15, 20 minutes watching this and understanding that what he's doing is practicing racism with you. Number one, you're a female. Number one, you're a black female. He's not going to listen to you, and he don't feel he have to, And when you understand the system the way that I have grown to understand it, you'll realize what's going on. Because the saddest thing was to hear her say, I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand why they won't do this, why they won't do that. And, that was really a hard thing for me to give any advice more than just listen. And, I think I send her some Neely Fuller clips on YouTube. But, I also took the liberty of actually writing her general manager about the situation because I felt like, had she done something extremely wrong, the white passengers would have been ready to crucify her. But, no one, I don't know if anyone reported about this guy, but I felt the liberty to speak up on her behalf and show that I'm surprised she kept her composure all up until it was just me and her standing there talking. But I only brought this up because, just to say how important it is for us all to be speaking about this, sharing it with each other, and recognizing, because, confusion is the biggest portion of it. Like many of us be at work, many of us have kids at school, and we're studying saying we don't understand. I don't know why. They should. These are words that, like the way I look at it is because it's business as usual for white people. This is what they do. And that's all I want to share.
Outstanding. Major commendation for sticking up for her and even taking the step to write her manager or supervisor to let him or let them know about the problem and this suspected race soldier, probably a trained killer if he was ex-military, just refusing to take orders from this black female, which happens all the time when we talk about black supervisors on the job. that is just, a title, that under the system of racism, white supremacy, you do not have any power over another white person if you are a black supervisor, quote unquote. But that's outstanding for you to take that time to try to share some information with her and to just listen empathetically. That is outstanding. And also what you said earlier, and that I think is really important as well in terms of sharing this information with our children so that they can be more informed and not surprised, caught off guard when this sort of thing happens, either when they're in school or when they're transitioning and moving into their own careers into the workforce. Other folks have commentary they wanted to share on what they've heard thus far, or if you have your own incidents you wanted to touch on.
Gus?
Yes, sir.
Greetings. This is Ross. I will be chiming in. I'm just in the middle of doing some things here, helping my wife with her dad. I'm sorry. I think I muted my line earlier by accident, so you might have heard me talking. I do apologize. But I will be chiming in a little bit, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
For sure. Anybody that has a hand up that we have not heard from? You all have commentary you wanted to make sure you got in? Folks might be an area where they might not be able to talk. I will again emphasize this is not the Spectator broadcast. Folks should definitely be able to share about things that have happened to them in their work career, presently, formally. Yes, sir.
Can I tell my story? Some stories about what's going on in my workplace. If it's okay, because I already went. I already spoke. Said who hasn't spoken.
Let's hear it.
Okay. Well, first is the day after the convention, and I said before I have this racist white female who hasn't treated me well, who's the receptionist, and she has another white female there who comes up to me, and I think. Up until the last couple of days, I thought she might have been under the impression that I'm in agreement with her views, but she's been very vocal. And this lady's in HR, and I tell you, I know enough to get her, fired. The stuff she tells me, it's almost like she thinks I'm white. It's like, and I'm starting to really question why she telling me all this stuff like this, came up to me and engaged me in a conversation about, Trayvon Martin, of all things, like Trayvon Martin, so, of course, me, I'm not doing, I ask questions, I don't give an opinion, and I want them to keep talking, so her position on the Trayvon Martin thing is the pictures they showed of him as a young person in court. He was 12, and he was actually 17 when this happened. And, that's, them trying to lie, and turned out that, that he used the ground. And I'm like, is she expecting me to challenge, because I'm not. If that's how you feel, okay. I just want to hear it. But it's just really strange, So, she's very, very much against Muslims. That's really what she comes to talk about. It's how she hates these Muslims. They shouldn't be here. Every time something happens in Europe, she's like wants to know how I feel about it. Of course, I always say, hey, I don't know. I just, I didn't hear about it till you told me. What do you feel about it? She gives me her earful. But now I'm starting to feel like it's happening every day. And she's just standing there. And I don't talk. She's just letting it rip. Black Lives Matter. I don't know about them. Martin Luther King and them. When your people marched, they were nice and cool. But now, this Black Lives Matter thing, they're a little radical. And I'm like, really? Wow, you think they're radical? I'm just asking questions to keep her talking. And I sent you an email today. I asked you if you knew an app that I could just click on real quick to record, because I mean this stuff is priceless. You would be like, it's like Archie Bunker, like it's totally unbelievable. I mean, it's believable, but unbelievable in a metaphor sense. I guess I shouldn't use a metaphor. Also, the white female who seems to be flirting with me, I feel like she took it to a whole totally different level. So I had to change the way I deal with her, and it was kind of odd because the gentleman that I work with, he's on a diet, and he stopped eating, every day for lunch for a whole week. You know, he's only brought in little pieces of chicken breast and broccoli. You know, and I've been teasing him. You know, men work out. We don't go on diets. You know, just teasing him. You know, he's laughing. And, you know, he's a good guy, black guy. You know, so either way, today, when he, comes in, they have like these food trucks that park all around outside my job. So one of them is a Jamaican food truck where they sell, Jamaican food. So the white female, when we come back, me and him come back from doing something, running an errand for the boss. We come back to the office. She's in the room that's allocated for us to work out of, eating her lunch. So he's like, okay, you gotta get off my desk, So she starts laughing. He says, oh, why you bring that around me? I'm on a diet, And she said, that's why I'm here. She was just teasing him, and she had curry chicken, whatever. So he says, oh man. I said, well, that's the same thing you're eating. You eating chicken, she's eating chicken. I was just making a joke. So he says, oh, it's different, man. That one has the flavor in it. I said, oh, he has a little bag of this red stuff that he puts on the food. I said, you got your own seasoning, making a joke. But she says, no, you don't get it. It's like if you pull your, she said dick. I'm going to say what she said. It's like if you pull your dick out and put it on the pussy, it's not the same as if you put it in the pussy. So I said, whoa. I walked out the room. So he comes to me the next day. This happened on Monday.
Excuse me.
So she comes to me the next, later that day. He's like, yo, I think she likes you. I say, yo, I'm going to so nip this shit in the bud. Nah, you're not going to be able to shut her down. I said, watch me. I know exactly how to handle this. So I had to get on codified. So now every time she comes around me, every conversation I switch right into talking about racism. So of course she wants to wait for me as fast as possible now. So now she don't even come by my desk because I done called her 4 or 5 times trying to talk, flipped it right into something about current events. And man, this is so racist. You later come, all right, I knew that was going to work. I know it's uncodified, but, I know that's how to get white people not to talk to. But that's my story. I'll meet my line.
Yikes. She sounds more dangerous than the white woman that's just talking about how much she hates Muslims and Black Lives Matter and all that. Like, that is super dangerous. Any sort of sexual advances, even anything that even looks like it is heading in that direction on the job, like, take that extremely serious. That is nothing to play with. And I would take immediate actions to making sure you're never around that person where it's just you two alone, and as much distance as possible. Like, take that extremely serious. I think that came up a couple weeks before when you were telling us about her and Firefighter and some of the others. They were emphasizing the massive danger that the second chick that you talked about represents, and just, again, the tackiness abounds.
Gus, can I speak to what Thomas just discussed too?
Yes, sir.
I was going to say the first person, she seems like she's just so comfortable in her white supremacy that she feels she has carte blanche to say anything to you. Just how callous she is and just open with her racism. kind of, to me, reminds me of like, well, not even reminds me of anything. It's just the fact that she's a white female and she knows her position on the job, and that basically all of the things that she's saying is in line with white supremacy, so nothing's going to happen to her. So she seems to be very comfortable in talking to you in that way. And this other one, she is a ultra terrorist. There's no other way of describing that. She's just out of control. I agree with us on every level. Try to stay as far away from her as humanly possible. Try not to have any discussions with her if you can, muster something like that. And I would just say the best thing to definitely keep your distance, because she is a dangerous, predatory, racist white supremacist. Thank you.
And let me tell you, since I started talking about racism the last two days, didn't even get her come by my desk to say hello, not a peep, until I walked around the office. Hey, okay, none of that. Nah, she don't want to talk about that. And I mean, I don't know. I know it's not codified, but I know that's a sure way to get white people not to want to talk to me. I mean, my line. So the first female also bragged about a pink gun. This is New York. I mean, I didn't even know you could have a gun. I know a brother get caught with a gun. That's 8.5 years. Yeah, her pink gun, AK-47, going to the range with a group of other white men that she hangs out with. Even showed me a picture of them all in their fatigue gear. Very odd for New York. Very odd.
I was going to say anything having to do with racism, to me, with white people is like the equivalent of nigga. Like, to me, like, anytime you want to just get the worst, get them in the worst way possible, or to get rid of them, like you said, it's like raid. It's like racism to me for white people is like the equivalent of nigga for black people. It just is highly offensive because it's so true. It's like they can't stomach the truth being exposed. So they don't feel any shame whatsoever. The only thing that they're afraid of is getting exposed or getting caught. Other than that, I think when you did that, it might have been uncodified, but I think that is like the quickest way to get white people to clear an area fast, is to start talking about race. Absolutely, I agree.
And lastly, I'm sorry to chime in one more time. The first female, I brought this home with me because I forgot, so I just walked back in the door, and I said, ooh, it's in my bag. She handed me this letter today when I was at the front desk, because that's when I had the interaction with her for the hour that I covered a reception and get ear raped by her for that whole hour. But she gives me this, so I guess y'all can look it up because it seems to come from Fox News. Ray Starman. It was published August 1st, 2016. An open letter to Mr. Kazir Khan. That's the gentleman that I think that some risked his life for this country and died, and now the Republicans, in particular Donald Trump, is I think insulting very much. You should just let that man live, But either way, this open letter to him is pretty much her views, and that's why she came and gave it to me. This guy thinks just like me. So if you read that, it tells you pretty much how her whole focus is. And this is human resources. This isn't like a regular, it's only 2 people in human resources. So just to let you know.
All right. Caller in Michigan, do you have commentary you wanted to add as well? Caller in Michigan.
May I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Gus, and to the callers and listeners. Well, I just wanted to share those shenanigans in the law firm that I'm at. This last 2 weeks, actually, over the last few days, I was not in the office, and typically when one of the secretaries or support staff is out, then there's enough secretaries to provide coverage for everyone else. And when other people call off, the office manager, she'll come up to me and say, hey, can you cover for so-and-so? She's out today, which means I would have to, support her, the attorney that she supports. Or usually if someone is out, I notice that she would always ask me to, just help out. And I do. And over the last few days, I was out. And when I came back into the office, she called me into her office. She said, once you get settled, can you come in my office? And so when I went in there, she wanted to let me know that while you were out, unfortunately, I couldn't find coverage for you. And I support 2 attorneys, and which is, I have a really heavy workload. And so if no one is providing coverage for me, of course, I come back and I'm totally just swamped, backed up, just trying to play catch up. But she wanted to let me know that she couldn't find coverage for me. And so what she had to do was, between her and the other office manager, they had to help out with my stuff, which they didn't do any work. They were just looking for errors. They were kind of like combing through my things to see what I was doing. Because nothing got done. And so I just thought that was interesting how conveniently, of course, no one was able to cover for me, but they did, looking for, and then they were, pointing out, oh, you didn't put this on the calendar or you didn't do this, when, actually the things that they were trying to point out I did, I just didn't make notations of it. So it was interesting. They were fishing for things, and that was one thing I made note of. The other thing is they have been expanding quite a bit at this firm, so they're hiring quite a few more attorneys, and they're seeking just more candidates to come on board. And they hired a black female, and at first they didn't sit her by me, but now over the past few weeks, a couple people had quit, and so now she sits in my area. And I thought it was interesting because they gave her the most difficult attorney in that area. So I kind of was like, wow, they set her up, because she didn't necessarily have to have that attorney. There are quite a few attorneys that need support staff, and so they gave her the most difficult one. I thought that was interesting. What I do, because I notice how white people help each other, and it blows my mind how helpful they are to each other, but they don't help non-white people. So I do lend my assistance to the black female that started, wherever I can, especially since we're in the same area. Another thing that happened, it was yesterday, actually. Every week the support staff have meetings, right? And yesterday they had a culture meeting. They want the office manager said the goal was, we want to just, have a great office culture. We want everyone to just enjoy coming to work, and we want to make it where, it's a great environment. So everyone, we want you to just chime in and just tell us what would make a great environment, because, we have to protect our culture, and we have to make sure that if there's a bad seed or a bad apple or someone that is, infecting our culture, we got to get them out of here. And so I thought that was interesting, because I was just thinking, yeah, they're protecting their white racist culture, and that is exactly what they do. I remember there was one secretary who said she doesn't fit in, and if this person doesn't fit in, we know how to get rid of them. And so I've been observing them in their culture, and it's just been amazing. So they had a meeting yesterday, which in my opinion was a refresher course or an introductory course into their culture, because there's so many new employees there. So I recorded it. I use my voice recorder on my phone, and I just record a lot of the just things that happen in the office, so I can just replay it, because a lot of times, I'll miss stuff, but I just record it so I can just kind of really make sure I'm paying attention to what's going on, and that way, if anything comes up, I'll just have it. I'll have it. And so I thought that was just really interesting. It's been quite interesting over the last few weeks, because, like I said, they are hiring and firing and just making a lot of changes. But I thought the culture training was pretty interesting this week. And I'll mute my line.
We heard before there was an issue about an accusation that you didn't put something on the company calendar that might be cause for reprimand. Seems like the fishing for that has gone on for a period of time. I think also the observation just in terms of where the help goes, where when the new white people come in, there abundance of resources and help available for them, and then black people come in and really, we're not really that engaged in helping them out too much. Not that big a deal. That's standard operating procedure. I think you and quite a few other folks have noted that over the period. When you recorded the meeting, was this like incognito, or was this, hey, this is I'm doing this obviously, and everybody knows I'm recording this, so I have it for my notes. Did you check to see like if that was something that they might try to get at you if they found out you recorded it?
Well, I definitely do it without anyone knowing, and I do it because I just didn't want to bring attention. I wanted them to be able to talk without it being guarded, and so it's a law firm, and I'm sure it would probably, I'm just thinking of, how they operate. It would just be guarded, what they would say. So I just do it. I always have my phone around. A lot of people have their phone, as if they're listening to music or, whatever. You have your headphones in. And so I'm recording it. And so, no, they did not know, just to answer your question. And I don't know how they would respond if they did know, but I just didn't want them to be guarded with what they would say.
Got it. What, did you have like an app, or is this just something like a standard feature on your phone that you use to record? Because I know Thomas did ask about that earlier.
Well, I have an iPhone, and it's a standard feature. It's a voice, let me look at it. Actually, it's called Voice Memos, and it was on my home screen, so. And then you can save it and upload it to a file. And so that's what I do to clear the space. I'll save it and then just email it to myself, and it'll just be stored. Got it.
That I was thinking with the audio clip I played at the beginning with Mr. Fuller talking, where he said if you're going to have some sort of meeting with people on the job, and if you can get a witness so that they can come and listen to the conversation, that way if there's a discrepancy or a dispute about what was said, they still, I didn't say that, or, you misinterpreted about that sort of thing, where you can have some people to verify and say, well, I was present, and, I remember that you said, da-da-da-da. If you cannot get a witness, that might be an option to record it. And even depending on the situation, you might even ask, like, hey, can we have the ask in advance? Can we have this meeting recorded? Just that way we have an official record of the conversation, what was said. That way there'll be no conflict or no questions about exactly what was said, and everybody can get a copy. That might even be an idea that folks can, see if that works for your situation, particularly if you're having any problems about people saying that they didn't say this, or I said this, and there's a question arises about that down the road, to ask if there's going to be a meeting, and ask in advance if you can, just have an audio recording of the conversation. Other folks have comments they want to make sure they get in, questions, observations that they want to make sure that they share.
Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, hi. I'm a Bay Area caller. How are you?
All right, no, right poorly. Good to hear from you.
Good, thank you. Thank you so much. Workplace racism. Okay, sometimes I'll do Uber or Lyft. They're that taxi driving service. So I do it in the Bay Area. Between Sacramento and San Francisco. So I pick up a lot of Caucasians. So I had to stop doing Uber because the predominant group that I pick up, they're Caucasian. They tend to be, well, they already know who I am. It's always a mystery when I pick them up because of the app. I've never been on the opposite side of the application. but they know who I am. They have a picture of my car, the license plate number, and my face. So I noticed when I pick up the Caucasian riders, it's like you have to go, like, literally out of your way to make them feel comfortable. And that's not necessarily my personality. So I picked up, they'll lower your ratings also, especially when you're not, and sometimes you can even go above and beyond, and they'll still give you I guess you can go from 1 to a 4 or 5, and I'll get a 1 or a 2. So I picked up two guys. I didn't know who it was till I got there. So I picked up these 2 guys, and they're not going that far, maybe a couple of miles. And so it gets in the car, berries and peaches in my car. So I was like, thanks. So they're like, there should be a whole requirement for everybody's car to smell like that. So we get past that. So they're talking, just talking idle, foolish talk. And, of course, I have to include it because I'm carting these people around. So I look in my rear view because I hear some paper rattling. And I don't have anything in my car except for my son has, like, a book light. And I even take his books out of the back because I don't want anybody in his stuff. So in the armrest in my back seat, which is submerged in the back seat because it becomes a third seat. You pull it down in the center, and it falls for an armrest. Puts up, minding its own business, embedded in the seat, and these savages have pulled my armrest out, opened the cup holders, which are embedded in there too, opened it up, and discovered some Starburst. And then I hear paper rattling, and smack, 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 smack. And I look and turn around. Oh, I was like, you in my armrest? Well, he found the candy. It wasn't lost. What do you mean he found the candy? So that was the last day I had my Uber app on because white people are so disrespectful, and especially when you're black, they'll do whatever they want to do in your car and then have the nerve to give you a bad rating if they feel like it. So I don't do Uber anymore. And if I do, I'll do it maybe once a month just to keep the app on. But I can't because I don't trust white people in my car because they do too much. I had this one Caucasian male, and then they'll get in the front. Well, why would you want to sit in the front? Sit your little tail in the back. Somebody back there, you're getting a ride. I'm going to sit in the front. And then it's like, will you turn the radio down? And I listen to jazz, so it's not disturbing. And it's low because I have to hear the navigation. So I'm going to turn it down from the steering wheel, but oh no, he's going to did those little dirty fingers and turn my radio down. I was like, oh. So, of course, I have to clean my car out, too, because they're so germy and dirty. I can't even pick my son up from school before I clean my car out because I picked up all these weirdos in my car, and then they get out and touch everything. So that's my workplace racism. I just wanted to share because sometimes I do listen because I'm driving, and then I have that background noise, and, you mute me so quick. So so sometimes I am listening, but I let them build up. So that's my workplace racism for the week. And thank you so much.
Wow, that was exactly what I was going to ask about, like the rating system, because I have seen that where they can lower your ratings, all of the new sharing economy stuff, Uber, and I just forgot the name of it, the whatever it is where you go, and Airbnb, that sort of thing, where black people are doing that, and it's the same thing where they can give you a really low rating if they stay with you or they ride with you and that sort of thing. That I know with the Uber thing in particular, I've seen a lot of reports over the last year or so where white drivers have gotten violent with, white passengers have gotten violent with non-white riders, where some people, they were saying that they were having enough incidents where they were having to put a camera in their vehicle, like just to protect them in case something happened. And it would be like explicitly racial, where they're calling them all sorts of racist names, racist slurs and what have you, violently assaulting them. Like I've seen quite a few. Like that's one, I'm not, telling anybody not to do anything. I'm just saying that does seem to be like a major hazard doing it, because particularly I think part of Uber, at least part of how they try to promote it is if you go out to drink they don't want you to drink and drive, at least so they say. So you can dial Uber and, get a ride to wherever you need to go. So you might end up having to pick up a lot of intoxicated racists. And then, like I've said for years, worst combination alcohol whites, that could just be a recipe for disaster. And then you have them in your vehicle too. So, that is definitely one, some safety concerns for sure. In addition to everything else you mentioned, them rummaging through your vehicle and taking stuff and fidgeting, with God knows what in the vehicle. That is, man, I can see why that might be something that you might not want to do for a long period of time if that's going to be the bulk of your clientele.
No, it doesn't work. Especially, and they shed hair, and I don't like that canine hair in the fibers of my cloth in my car because I have a son, and they're. It's horrifying. I'd rather collect cans. I can't do. I apologize, and I apologize for not muting my line, but I can't. It's not for me, and I don't have the personality to deal with all that. And when they are a terror when they're drunk, day or night, you can do it in the daytime and they still drink, and they're terror when they're under the influence of alcohol. And you really just have to get them to from A to B with very little conversation, or you're just listening to them ramble on and on and on and on, and it's insanity. And I apologize. I'll mute my line.
No apologies. No apologies. I can empathize. I can definitely empathize. Let's see.
Could I chime in on that, Gus?
Yes, sir.
I was just going to say, wow, I'm really sorry you have to be in such close quarters with these psychopathic terrorists. To me, what the sister was just discussing is a prime example of protecting your property. If you can, she's in a vehicle, so it's a little different being a driver. But we've discussed white people rummaging through your pocketbook, your book bag, your personal effects when you're not around. Definitely, if you can do what you can to protect your things. Like I said, I use a airport lock, one of the little locks you can lock your suitcase with. I use that on the job, so if I'm leaving my desk, my bag is locked when I leave, and then I'll unlock it when I need something out of it, and then I'll lock it. So it just lessens any possibility, or in my case, it brings it down to zero, that these melanin deficient psychopaths will be able to dig at my stuff, especially, again, just a part of my codification, when you're reading books that can potentially, raise the ire of white people. That's another thing. Don't read it on the job. Lock if you carry something that you read on to and from work, lock your bag, and that way you have yourself protected. And that's all I wanted to chime in with. I just think that was a prime example of that. And sadly, you had to deal with that kind of terrorism and their filth, because they're just, I can't imagine what your car must have looked like by the time they left. Thank you, and I'll mute my line.
Sure. Our caller, DMV area, do you have commentary you want to share? You should be with us. Last four digits, 1722. 1722. Do you have commentary, or are you just listening in? Might be listening. We'll check in. Other folks, if you all have commentary you want to share as well, just make sure you don't wait till the last minute. Go ahead, get your hand up, 641-715-3640, and the code 564943#. I hadn't really thought about Uber. I mean, that certainly is workplace racism. To ask if any of our other listeners have done Uber, if you've participated in that, and then if you've had suspected racists where you've had to transport them anywhere. Because like I said, I feel like I have seen this on a regular basis, that there'll be at least, one report about per month where a non-white person, something involving Uber and racism, where I've seen the videos where the driver was attacked. I think they even had one if I'm remembering correctly, I think this was in Georgia where it was a black driver, exactly what I said, intoxicated. And this was a professor. This wasn't even just some, random old scruffy racist or whatever. This was like a professor at a major institution. I think this was in Georgia. And he got in the car and was berating him and calling him nigger and all this. The black guy, he had his phone. The racist professor, he started attacking him while he was driving, no less. The black, he had to stop, pull over the car. He's trying to get away from this guy. I think somebody saw what was happening and they went to try to assist him. They called the police. I think the police did actually come and they arrested the professor, and they were trying to pursue, and people were trying to see if the university was going to fire this professor once they confirmed that he did work at this academic institution. But I mean, it can be beyond just the ickiness of it, and as I said, them putting their racist paws on everything in your vehicle. I mean, it can end up being something that really puts your physical well-being, your safety in jeopardy doing this. Are there any other folks here who done Uber as a driver, not as a passenger? Might not have anyone on the line. You can certainly feel free to write in if you're listening to the archives, or if you're listening live. If you're not on the line, feel free to write in. Or if you don't want to be a spectator, feel free to dial in if anybody has an experience as a driver with Uber and how racism might have impacted your Uber experience. Other folks have commentary they wanted to share?
Hey, can I comment on the Uber?
Yes, sir.
Great. And also, I wanted to ask you, Gus, because you do the radio show, and that's like a full-time job with all the research and things you do. Do you ever experience any, workplace racism, trying to get people to come on the show and stuff like that? But as far as the Uber, man, I never thought about that until I heard her story, and I sat down and I started listening to it. I said, wow, that is amazing, because I don't think I could have white people in my car. I don't even know how to drive. So I live in Manhattan. I don't have to drive anywhere. But, I mean, I just can't, I just couldn't do it, man. I don't want to be in a car with white people unless I have to, and hopefully, that'll never happen. But, man, that's just, I never thought about that. And then they're here, because when I used to do the maintenance job, and oh man, that woman's wrestling was just terrible, man. They shed hair, fur, like crazy. I just couldn't imagine, and I never thought of that, because I know a couple of people who've been looking into, they just got a new car and they're trying to make their payments, and they've been looking into it. And I was thinking, yeah, that's a great little hustle, but then after hearing you have to pick up white people, I didn't think of that. Interesting. I'll meet my line.
Gus, I had a workplace update, actually, if it's okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. Also, I just want to say my son has ridden in Uber and had a couple of really wacky experiences with white drivers. So even as a passenger, you can experience racism. Absolutely. So, yeah, Uber is very interesting. But on my job, they seem to be making real stupid decisions, which white people tend to do quite often. And the stress tends to fall on the people at the bottom, mostly black people, I would say. Essentially, what they're doing is, right now, I work for a health insurance company, and right now they're a part of a network in New York City called MagnaCare, which is like, I guess, they have the biggest network in New York as far as doctors and medical practitioners. And what they're doing now is they're trying to build their own network from scratch. And in so doing, they not only are they doing that, but they're also raising their insurance rates for next year. So essentially, the way things are going now, I'm pretty sure that I will not be there by the end of the year, or maybe by early next year. Like I said, if I find something earlier than that, I will be out as soon as possible. But I'm taking my time. I'm not really rushing into anything. But the whole thing is, with the decisions that they're making with the network, they have dropped more than half of their network. Right now, we have about 42,000 doctors that we have access to via this parent company's network that we're under contract with. So once they actually transition to 2017 with their own network that they're building from scratch, they will have roughly less than half of what the doctors they have now. So it's going to drop to 20,000 doctors, and it's only going to be about 3 different sets of hospitals that they use. So the vast majority of the members that we have are going to be gone by next year. So with these decisions that they're making, I'm pretty sure they're going to end up having to downsize due to the fact that a lot of people are leaving because their doctors are no longer going to be in the network and they'll have to pay out of pocket. So that's one major thing. So for sure, I probably won't be there by the end of this year, early next year at the latest, if I end up staying that long. And then the other thing is there was a sister on the job, who's Jamaican. She's a nurse, and I've been talking to her, and there's another sister that calls into the program that I introduced to the program, and we both, we just started building on the job, off to ourselves. And we were discussing just the system and how things work on the job. And I remember in the beginning, the Jamaican sister really didn't fully get it. She was like asking questions about some of the things that she was experiencing. I didn't know what she was experiencing directly because she doesn't work close to me. And I was just telling her, I said, this is how these people function. And in the beginning, she really didn't fully understand and she didn't believe. And I didn't get frustrated. I just took my time and I was really personable. And over time, she would just come and tell me these different stories of how, these white people that she works with are coworkers. They're white nurses, and then they also work on the floor with us. So there's a bunch of us mixed together, but she works with basically majority with white nurses. And she was telling me some of the experiences that she was having with them and also with some of the racist patients that she would talk to on the phone. And eventually we started talking. I discussed Dr. Wilson with her. I discussed this program, and she's basically got Dr. Wilson's book, so we were like kind of building on some things, and she actually will be leaving soon. She's got another position that's coming up, and in the next month or so, she'll probably be leaving. But she did tell me today on the way home, we actually walked out together, so we were able to talk for a little bit, and she basically was kind of thanking me because I kind of helped to shift her consciousness as far as just her understanding of how the system works. And the longer she's been there, she basically expressed the more everything that I started to say that I was saying to her made perfect sense. So essentially, this is another black female that I was able to introduce to the whole concept of codification, to Dr. Wilson's work. I told her about Neely Fuller's work. I told her about Dr. Marimba Ani's work. And she's just highly interested, I would say, in making changes and really understanding the system to the best of her ability, and also passing that information along to her family because her husband, she's married and stuff as well. So I just wanted to chime in with that and just say thanks for taking my call, and I'll mute my line.
Right on. Job well done. Another commendation. Folks working out to reach out, help some other victims of white supremacy, black people, get a better understanding of this, the terrorism that we are facing, so we can get a better grasp of what is being done to us and some strategies for how to neutralize these things that are happening, particularly on the job. And I know I certainly am aware, even some of the people that are with us right now do not endorse the strategy of reaching out and talking about racism, even to other black people on the job. I understand that it certainly can be risky depending on the circumstances and what have you, and that too, whites are most to blame for that, making the environment just so toxic and so difficult to trust people at times. But outstanding if you can do it and the person is receptive and can take that information and apply it to make better choices and improve the quality of their life. Other folks dialed in that we have not heard from have commentary, folks that are listening.
Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. For some reason, the system muted me right after you had unmuted me. Hello to Gus and the callers. This is the caller in D.C., and I just wanted to give an update about, I had called a few times in the past about a coworker of mine who insisted on hugging me constantly. And I think the last time that I updated the group, I had mentioned that she had put in her resignation, and she has since left, but she is not gone. That's actually what I wanted to talk about tonight. So about 2 weeks ago, I came back from vacation, came back to the office, and one of my other coworkers, the woman that sits actually right next to me, another white woman who sits right next to me, she came to me as soon as I walked into the office, and she says, have you heard the rumor that's going around that so-and-so wrote a scathing review about the agency in one of the very popular workplace review websites? And I said, no, I hadn't heard that. And so she went on to tell me that she had written something about her experience there. And so, of course, because she and I had such a contentious relationship, I kind of just thought, okay, well, maybe she put something about me in there. So on my break, I went and looked on the website to see if I could find it. And of course, there's no names that are disclosed on this site, but as soon as you type in the agency, I could tell from the context of her complaint who it was, which one she had written, rather. So I wanted to, if I could read for the group, just 2 very small snippets that she had actually written in there, because I thought that it was just really very revealing about her and sort of her psychology, or just white psychology. So the first one is, she says, the level of emotional brutality to employees is shameful. The culture of bullying is widespread and acknowledged by most employees. Bullying is accepted, and in large part, the bullies are the ones who get ahead. I am grateful to have finally gotten out, and I am consciously devoting time to healing from the traumatic experience of working there and trying to do good work in the midst of harassment and cruelty. So I found this so interesting because this woman was a total bully to me. Her unwanted hugs, her taunts, telling me gross stories about eating spoiled food or expired food, and mocking me to other coworkers, saying things like, I know she doesn't want to be hugged, but I hug her anyway, is absolutely nothing short of bullying. That's what she was doing to me. So that was very interesting to me. Then the next thing she says is, this isn't in sequential order, but this is just a part of it. She says, that said, lots of really good people work there, and in leaving, I heard not one person defend the place. Without me ever saying anything about why I was leaving, they told me that they managed to survive there. They acknowledged what a bad place it is. It's a real tragedy for these employees and for the American people. I work for a government agency. For the American people, that more than $100 million annually goes to keeping some old white men, and some women too, in cushy jobs that allow them to keep the institution behind, treat their subordinates badly, and not provide career opportunities to deserving younger people. And this really, really, for me at least, got to the psychology of white people, and in this particular case, white women. Because she's a mature woman. She's not a young woman. She's probably in her mid to late 50s. And both her speech and her actions on countless occasions are always wildly inappropriate, have always been wildly inappropriate. As I mentioned before, I never had a situation at my job until she arrived. So I think the comment about, the old white men are able to hold these posh positions without allowing younger, more deserving individuals opportunities allows her to almost be the victim of, the term they use is like white male patriarchy. But conversely, she's also shielded by white supremacy to inflict harm on me, which I thought was just really, really very telling. So it basically, I took that to mean that you should be mistreated, but I shouldn't. So the letter went on and on about, how much the director makes and how individuals harassed her and how she's, basically harassed hardworking white women. And I guess word got around about her putting this review on this website. And a few days later, we got a circular that went around encouraging staff to blow the whistle, I guess, in terms of funds that are being misappropriated or harassment situations that are going on. And bottom line, I really could kind of care less about the director misappropriating funds or him being overpaid or whatever it is that she's insinuating, because pretty much for the most part, I think that all white people are overpaid for what they do. And frankly, I kind of thought that she was overpaid for what she did, because if she wasn't having coffee or socializing with people, she wasn't really doing anything at all. So that's basically the update on that situation with her. She has reached out to some of the employees at the job, not me, of course, but reached out to some of the single kind of older white women on the job who don't really have any families or anything, and basically said that she wants to keep in touch and that she really enjoyed her time working with them. And I don't know. So that's basically the gist of what's been going on with her. So I'm sure this is not the last that I'm going to hear of her, but that's the update.
Fascinating. Wow. I said last week, I read that report in Forbes where they said, you should do, they encourage doing a background check on a potential employer. Like if you're going to go work for this agency or company or whatever it is, that you should go online and do some digging around, do some checking, just so you'll be a bit more informed about the place that you're going into. And to me, that seems logical. It's not a strategy I had employed previously, but it certainly makes sense. It's something that I would do moving forward. Even, I think Thomas brought up, which was logical, that a lot of times victims of racism, we're in kind of precarious employment situations where we can't be very picky about our job, unfortunately, where it might be, you need this job, so I got to take it. Fine, even if you're in that situation, I would still want to be informed about the environment that I'm going into to check something like that. That, to me, even suggests that companies are aware that, having people, former employees, go on and make these sort of comments, this could make us look bad. This could drive away us getting, productive employees who want to come and work for us and that sort of thing. It certainly reminded me of that, but how many times on this broadcast have we talked about standard operating procedure where the master terrorists in the universe somehow are able to every time switch it so that they are the victims? I'm not a bully. I'm the one that's being bullied. I'm not a racist. Reverse racism is being practiced against me. I am being misused. Constantly, this sort of thing happens where they're just able to use words. And I would say white women, they seem to regularly employ this tactic of I'm somehow being mistreated. It's these no good white men or whatever it is that they, allege is happening where they have been harmed. They have been mistreated. It is absolutely amazing, just as you said, the kind of revealing some of the psychosis of the global white minority in this letter, and then even the company responding to this. Like, we need to check if you're being harassed. Let us know and wasn't she the one that was borderline encouraging you to misappropriate funds? Wasn't she the one that wanted you to submit the payment for the vendor before?
Gus, thank you. Yes, absolutely. She absolutely asked me to do that. And it's so funny because in a way I sort of felt like when the circular went around, I'm like, you're almost justifying what she said. Like you're justifying that if you deem that there's any sort of misconduct that's going on, that you should report it, that we're taking this very seriously. This woman was a terrorist. She was absolutely a terrorist. And I said to my husband from the jump, this woman is vindictive and she will come for me if I try in any capacity to, say anything about her. And she was an absolute terrorist. And you're absolutely right. She did. She totally asked me to misappropriate funds.
That is pretty standard in my experience, and even the seriousness with which the company responded. I'm sure this will be like good company gossip for the next, month or so. Till the next, juicy tidbit happens, people be talking about this, and I'm sure she even has some friends that are still in the building who will be looking out if anybody's going to be talking bad about her and that sort of thing. But standard operating procedure in the workplace, just this sort of thing happens. I'm sure I wouldn't even be surprised if they have employee gatherings. If she is able to come back and hang out and that sort of thing, it would not shock me at all, like when they have the Christmas party or whatever else they have, if somebody has a shower or anything on the job. But just if folks can contrast the seriousness, this is an employee who doesn't even work anymore, and she's making an allegation about mistreatment, and they are retroactively responding to her allegation to check in to see if people are being mistreated or funding anything that is happening that she has alleged in this report, versus the way that when you have non-white people, black people in particular, who are actual employees of an agency where they're saying, I'm being mistreated, I'm being touched, I'm being hugged and I don't want to, and that can be bragged about in the office like that. People don't feel like, oh, we need to intervene. We've got unwanted touching here, and, this is a major problem. It's 2016, and we've got all this discussion about, sexual rights and what have you, and respecting that in the workplace. This person is being touched in a manner that is not comfortable, where they've clearly stated they don't want to be touched, and there's no organized response at all. That, just again, I think I echo the sentiments completely. White women, in my experience, they behave with total lawlessness and impunity on the job. I've seen that for years. I'm not saying that white men don't do it as well. They totally do. I'm just saying it seems to be something particular with white women. I think, as you stated too, I think a lot of times this gets presented as white male patriarchy, where for whatever reason white women are not seen as equal partners in this business of white terrorism. And boy, if you just pay attention on the job, those white women, they are going to work. Wow, that is amazing. I would certainly save the letter. That is a fantastic case study to keep on, just to keep in your files.
Gus,
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, I'm really glad you brought up the whole retroactive, questioning of the employees who were left behind. To me, that whole scenario just speaks to the power of white women and the fact that, in my opinion, they are the nucleus of white supremacy. And the males tend to be the arm, the military wing, and they are the brainchild of the system. I mean, how could a white person who no longer works at a company badmouth her experience in the company and still have the ability to come back? I don't know any black person who ever left a job where they had a negative experience and was ever able to come back and be treated with any sort of respect at all. So, I mean, just the entire process, her being such a psychopathic, sociopathic, just racist terrorist, and harassed the sister all that time, touching on her, doing all of the stuff that the women did not want done. And when she leaves, she becomes the victim. I mean, that is like textbook plantation behavior. They do the same thing today that they did 500 years ago, because this stuff works. It tends to stay the same. And white women, I mean, even after an event, they still form like Voltron to help white people after this woman is off the premises. That speaks volumes to white supremacy, in my opinion.
They'll probably replace her with someone worse. Glad to see her gone, but that tends to be the way it goes. I would expect they'll bring in just another version and, continue on the plantation with how they are operating things. Anything stand out other folks wanted to share? Anybody that we have not heard from? If you had comments on that. Was that someone? Did you have something you wanted to share? Oh, okay. I think they just had background noise. Anybody that we missed who we have not heard from, if you had commentary you wanted to share, please don't wait till the last minute. If you had your own experience you wanted to touch on, or if you had observations about anything that you've heard, or if you wanted to respond to any of the questions that have been put forward.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you, sir. Greetings to Gus, the host, the listeners, and callers. I had a few observations and incidents. There was an incident that I shared. I think it was perhaps last week, where me and my white coworker, she's an older white woman, we went down to the hallway to get some supplies for the office. And sort of like a store. that's pretty much in the older, like, dark room where they used to process old-time photos for the records department. And once we were done getting all of these supplies on the list that we had, you know, the black female, she basically tells me, you know, I get a hold of the cart or whatever because we had like a lot of items that we had to carry. So I had a cart, and she tells me, you know, make sure you don't run over, you know, such and such, you know, the white woman. So I guess I was implying that I was going to run her over or whatever. So, and it was a bunch of comments after that, but I just wanted to point that out, you know, like how we've been programmed pretty much to value white people, and, you know, white people manipulating our victimization, because she was saying, you know, well, you know, I can pretty much say what I want, and, you know, she won't say nothing back. That's what this white woman said. And I wanted to start with that because this same white female, she seems to be very very sneaky, very conniving, because there was another incident where, because we deal with people coming to look at their files, like if they're trying to apply for a job, they have to do like a background check or something of that nature, and, you know, they want to come get their I guess dispositions and things like that if they had a juvenile case or something. And she was telling me that she had an interaction with a customer. It was she didn't disclose the racial classification, but the way that she was speaking about it, she said that the guy told his girlfriend, because the guy was with a female and the child in the stroller. So she told me that he said that, you know, well, I heard I had about 2 or 3 cases, so I just needed some kind of proof to show that they were all dismissed and the cases were thrown out. So she ended up printing out his whole case history, and she told me that he ended up having 30 different cases as a juvenile. So she was telling me that the guy and his girlfriend got into some kind of a, you know, heated argument, and she was mad at him because she thought the guy said that, well, I thought you only had 2 or 3. And, you know, so I ended up looking at it. I ended up looking at it myself, and it was nothing close to 30. It was more like, it was still a decent amount. It was like maybe 6. But that's a large, gigantic difference. She was saying 30, and this guy had only about 5 or 6. And then, you know, when you click in on a search, I looked up his name. She told me what his name was, and it said that he had black by his race classification. So I'm thinking in my mind, like, that had to be an act of racism right there, because she over exaggerated his criminal history, and it reminded me of when I think someone in the earlier part of the show or the program said, like, how, you know, we are exaggerating, like, well, the guy was, you know, they made it seem like he's 7 foot, but he's really like 6 foot. So I think that was another example of that for that that part. But that's all I had about that white female. And it was like 2 other incidents. The first of the 2 was, I was sitting in the break room, and another white woman, or younger white female, she was talking to the skilled suspected race soldier, white male, and she said something about one of the contestants, because we watched that, you know, Millionaire TV show, and it was a non-white female. I guess she would be classified as Asian, and she said, well, you know, she'll be okay. You know, her kids won't need it. You know, they're Asian. They get in. They'll have a scholarship. They'll get in college. They'll get in college for free. You know, they'll have no problem getting in college. So the older white male, you know, I look at him, and he looks up and he says to her, in this joking, I guess, playful voice, "Oh my gosh, I do not appreciate anyone saying anything about race or creed because I am deeply offended. So I look back at her and she says, oh, well, you mean like how you offend people when you talk about Hillary Clinton? And then I look back at him and I guess she was trying to, call him out for things and comments that he said. So he ends up saying, well, I guess you got a point there. And they both just start laughing and whatnot. And the last incident was we was about to leave the job where we like swipe our cards, and this white female in my department, she was talking to another white woman, the same white woman that lied about the case history. And I guess she was on the phone talking to somebody, and she was like, I'm about to blow a gasket, And I was like, whoa, I said, you seem pretty much upset. And then, she starts talking to the other white woman, and she says, they just made me so mad, and I'm just furious right now. And she says, you know what, these foreigners, they need to go back to where they come from. So I let the statement stand on its own. I didn't give a response. And she started saying, wow, you know what, that was kind of mean. I know that's kind of mean. She said mean. So the other white woman, she kind of starts to, stutter and don't necessarily know what to say. So we start walking out the door, and she says, well, I understand, so whatever that meant. So I guess they were making some kind of, coded connection, I guess, because they were both white. And now keep in mind, this is the same one that said a black male had screamed at her across the street. And 2 people actually told me that they didn't believe her, that I told this to. So she could have been lying. But that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Wow. That is fascinating. Even your commentary is even, I guess this would almost count for 2 areas of people activity. This would kind of be law and labor, certainly workplace racism. But since this is, a court environment, that I think it was the second incident that you shared where they were going to get the records report for, I guess it was a black male. And she said that he had like 30 incidents. And it turned out he was, that is an astronomical act of white supremacy to come back and say somebody has like 30 incidents on their record. And it's, certainly 6, whatever. But 6 is not 30, not even remotely close. And I'm sure that's not the first time that a racist in a court environment where it's dealing with records and access to your records and having to make a report, if this is a hiring thing or security clearance or whatever, where someone might have to go and access your records, where they couldn't do the exact same thing and just say, oh yeah, this person has 30 incidents on their record and it's 6, or maybe it's 2, maybe it's none, and they just make up whatever. That is amazing. And that, again, I think a lot of times we just don't have any idea in terms of the levels of racism, white supremacy that are being practiced all the time, just by the regular average white people that we're around every day. Not Donald Trump, not David Duke, not Paula Deen, not Donald Sterling, just the regular whites that we are around all the time, hanging out, having lunch with, chilling with, sitting next to in class, all of that. These folks are doing monumental things that have a huge impact on our lives. It's no way I can believe that was the first time that a white person in that position, dealing with records or what have you, made that sort of decision. Yes, we'll just grossly inflate this person's record in, our report, or what we say about this person's report. The comment where the white women, I guess she was talking to you, or was another white woman present, and she said that she's tired of these foreigners. I think it's probably going to be more of those type of comments as it gets closer to November, and just as they keep all of this up, reporting the attacks that have happened in France and Germany and different things around the world and stuff here as well, I suspect it's going to be more of that sort of thing on the job. I think, at least in my view, not saying anything is great, and it seemed like you didn't have to say anything in your situation, because she eventually responded like, "Oh man, that sounded not racist. That sounded mean for me to say that." And then the white person came in to help her clean it up and move on about their day. But I suspect it's going to be more of that. I would just develop your own code if you do want to say something. I think Thomas mentioned the idea of pulling out the pen and just writing it down if you want to say that, or if you want to ask a question, figuring out some questions that you can ask, or however you want to deal with that. But I suspect it's going to be a lot more of that as we move forward. What was it you said, the incident about the records, where this race soldier said he had 30 incidents, and he actually had 6 where his racial classification, did you say his racial classification on the form was black, or she just said it was black?
Well, see, when she started, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Well, see, for some reason, because I just got back from my break, and like my morning break, so I sit down at my desk. So we like to discuss in terms of my training and whatnot. You know, when it comes to people coming in to see about their different types of cases, she'll usually tell me about people that she pretty much helped provide services to. And, you know, the way she was talking about it, like, you know, it seemed like she wasn't being honest. I guess I can use that term. And, you know, like the number, she said, well, you know, he had almost 30. She said almost 30, like it would be 28 or something. And, you know, and I was like, oh, well, can we look it up real quick? I mean, she was holding about 2 or 3 sheets in her hand. So I looked it up. And then on the program that we have, like the digital program, you can just look up a person and just check out their background, and it'll show the race classification and everything. So it said black male next to it. And then I said, oh, yep. No wonder she tried to make it sound like that. And then, you know, when we looked it up, it was only about 5 or 6 listed under his whole case history. And she was like, was that it? Was it? You sure it's not anymore? I was like, no, you standing right here. You can see her right here with me. And it only equaled up to maybe about 5 or 6 tops. So she was like, oh my goodness, that's it. she tried to do some backtracking, like she didn't mean to do and say what she said. So I guess she didn't think that I was going to question her on that, you know, on that number she had. So I just want to look it up for myself, because me and her, you know, we have our own individual computer, so we both have access to these things. So I was able to find out the truth on my own. So yeah, I was thinking about that, like, wow, like I think she's practicing racism majorly right there, like wow.
I suspect in most instances, if they were talking to a black person, they would not have access to get that truthful information for themselves. They would just have to take, you know, whatever the white person said, and either I believe this person or I don't. And like even if she's just telling this to you, just to practice racism, so that, you know, this will increase your anti-blackness, so that you just think all black people are super predators and thugs that, you know, need to be brought to heel. Even if that's just the case, I just counter-racist logic to me suggests this has probably happened on a widespread scale. This kind of gross inflation, just out-and-out deception and lying about the criminality of black people, particularly when you have white people that are going to be the attorneys, the court clerks. People remember the incident in Michigan from a few years ago, and the Ferguson incident. Mary Ann Twitty, the court clerk, she was making all those racist jokes. These are the regular old little people, and it was white women in all of these instances, every single one. It was a racist court clerk in Michigan where she got recorded, where she called a black elected official in Michigan. She called him a nigger, and she was a court clerk. She was the one you had to go to her if you were trying to get a deed for who owned property or a will or something of that, something important, an important legal document. She was the person that was in charge. You would have to go talk to her to get this sort of information. I just counter racist logic. There is no way whites are not doing this, not just on a casual basis in trying so that you think bad about this person, like, oh yeah, he's got, 30, 40 incidents, super crazy, the biggest criminal we've ever had in town. Not just doing it in a capacity where somebody will think bad about you for the next 5 minutes. Doing it in a capacity where this can prevent you from getting a job or something really important that's just totally based on a racist lie. That is, wow, that is incredible. And again, that's what I mean about just sharing the observations thing that we see on a job, even if it's not racism necessarily targeting you, just the things that you see, things that you hear on a regular basis. I mean, extremely important bits of information just about what it means to be white and how they're functioning around us on a regular basis. Other folks, the caller on the vote line, your line is a little loud. I don't know if you can turn your volume down a little bit, maybe. That would be helpful. The caller on the vote line, if you could turn your volume down a little bit, or if you, I don't know how you have your microphone setting, but it's a little bit loud. If you could adjust that, that would be grand, and we can get your commentary as well. Not hearing anything at all, just kind of a hum. I don't know if it's from the volume being too loud or if you actually have some noise in the background. I'll try it again and see if it's been corrected. The caller on the vote line, we'll see one more time. The caller on the vote, if you're just listening, that's fine too. But when I'm opening your lineup, we're just hearing kind of the noise in the background. We're not hearing an actual voice of anyone. Did you have commentary you wanted to share, or are you just listening?
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I don't have anything on, so I don't know what's being heard.
You sound much better now.
I mean, I don't have.
You sound much better now. We can hear you.
Oh. Okay, I didn't know. I just said I didn't know anything was on. But I guess because this is workplace racism, I don't have any in particular. But I was online looking at USA Today, and they had this article, and it says in the entertainment section, and it says Flesh Tone is a comprehensive site people of color have been waiting for. So I thought it would be something about entertainment. And I opened it. It's actually a black woman who started a business helping other black people find flesh-colored items to wear because, that's kind of hard for people to wear. And I thought that was weird. I don't know if it was racism on the part of USA Today to put her in the entertainment section, but this lady has started a legitimate business on helping other black people find these type of items that they can wear. And I went to the website. So then the article, let me go back. And the article it goes on and on about this blog that this woman has. When you go to the website, there's like this little blip about the blog. Everything is about finding, because she was a dancer, finding dancing shoes, dancing stockings, businesses. So I thought that was weird on her part. But since she's new, maybe you might want to get her on the show to try to see how she thought about her company being covered. And according to the article, it doesn't say that her husband is white, but he's Irish English. So that kind of tips me off to being white. So this person may have a lot of things to say about.
Whoops, sorry. I hit the wrong button. I was trying to. My bad. No time for Dixie now. You were saying, oh man, I did it twice. I don't know what is happening there. Anyway, you were saying you were encouraging checking out her as a potential guest on the program to see about her starting her business and how she was how they covered her business in the USA Today.
Yes, because when I read the article, like I said, it has really not that much about being entertaining. To me, it was about starting a business. And it's about she's sponsors to help her with a site. I'm like, no business person will probably go to the entertainment section or the life section, as they call it, and look at this to see that this lady needs businesses and things like, things like that. So I don't know. Her name was, well, not was, she's still alive. Her name is Taya Ade, and she's from Australia. So you can get a global perspective. Lots of perspectives you may be able to get from this one person. Business, possibly married to a white person. I don't know, just a lot.
What's the name of the business? Color? What was it?
Oh.
Copper? What was it?
It's called fleshtone.net.
Fleshtone.
One word, fleshtone.net.
Fleshtone.net. Outstanding. I'll have to check. I have to see if I can find the USA Today article as well. If I track it down, I will post that on our Facebook page as well. So that folks
it's right there on the cover in the beginning of the life section. It's right there. I just saw it today.
Oh, okay. I think I can get my hands on USA Today. Oh, I got it. I'll post it on the Facebook page. Y'all can check it out. Yeah, it would not surprise me at all if this is like a legitimate business thing and they're just trying to minimize it as some sort of goofy entertainment or whatever the case is. It would not surprise me at all. But yeah, I'll have to check that out. I do know that is something that I've heard in terms of racism, white supremacy, that is consistent where the flesh tone items, stockings, and things of that nature, it's all centered around white women, not folks with melanin. Right on, I got it. I'll share the article on our Facebook page right now, and I'll see if she might be down to come on the program.
Okay. Well, that's like I saw that. I thought that would be interesting. That's all. Thank you.
Appreciate you sharing that as well. Other folks have commentary they wanted to make sure they get in, questions about anything they've heard or your own observations?
Well, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but if I was an entrepreneur right now, an up-and-coming black entrepreneur, and I wanted black people to see my product, I would probably put it in the entertainment section too, because that's where they're going to go look. I don't know if that was an act of racism. It could have been a smart marketing strategy. You put it in the entertainment section or the sports section because most black people that I've encountered, that's the two parts of the paper that they seem to fly on the front page, the entertainment, sports, and then they put it back down, which is very odd to me. Also, I wanted to bring up, did you see the story about I thought the retired firefighter would have called in. I was going to ask him, the firefighter in upstate New York, black guy, volunteer firefighter, who received a letter. Oh, is that? Wow, okay. He received a letter, no wonder. Received a letter for him a nigger or whatever, and then a couple of days later his house burned down. And, okay, yeah, I can see the frustration now. I'm in my line.
Yeah, I did see that. I think that was in New York. There's allegedly investigating and raising money for the family and all the rigmarole. But, yeah, they sent this letter to this black male firefighter that he needed to retire and called him a nigger and all this, threatening him. And then I think within like a day, it might not have even been a full 24 hours of the letter being mailed, their residence was burned. And I think it was beyond just their residence. I think it was some other properties also were burned in this fire. But yeah, that was rather big news this week. Certainly another aspect of racism, white supremacy. He said he was not going to quit his job as a fireman. And it's been lots of that too in terms of black people. I think that's worthy of a whole area of study right there, because I think retired firefighter has said for years that tends to be a pretty good job. They have benefits and what have you, a pension and all of that. It's a pretty solid job, and that has been something that has been protected, denied for black people for a long, long time, and they've been having more lawsuits and things of late trying to get black people onto these jobs, and this is the response. And this is not even the only one. It's been quite a few of these incidents. I think I played quite a few of them on our Saturday compensatory call-in in different parts of the country where black firefighters, where they've been on the job and they faced the same type of thing, all kinds of racist abuse, and some of it was in Connecticut, some of it was in other areas. I was trying to get some of the black firefighters that were in Connecticut, I was trying to get them on the program to just talk about some of the same tacky things that they were going to. It was not arson. It didn't get to that bad where someone came and burned their residence, but it was terrorism nonetheless. And unfortunately, the black male in this case, at least from what I saw, it looks like his spouse is a white woman, unfortunately, and that might have contributed to some of why this, in terms of motivating racists to attack this black male.
So it said he's a volunteer firefighter, which means that he's not even getting paid. As far as I see that they just do it for free, right?
I would have to get more details. I know some folks in these volunteer capacities, there is some form of compensation. For others, it is not. You just do it, for when you have the time and what have you, do the training or what have you, but you do not get compensation. So I'd have to get more detail in terms of if he actually got anything for his time and energy. Folks have other comments? Anything else they want to make sure they get in? Please do not wait till the last minute. Anything, observations, suggestions, anything stood out from what we've heard from listeners as well? No, two things. Make sure I get in. In terms of being codified, as I said, I would expect an increase in the tacky types of comments, whether it's under the rubric of foreigners, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's President Obama, whether it's something about the election. I would expect all of that to just increase as it builds up to the election in November. As I stated, I would have a code about how you want to respond to that. If you want to say anything, I would already be thinking of that. And you can even role play. I know that's something one of our listeners, we have done that before on the program. Ask if folks are interested in doing that, where you can get an opportunity to kind of where some of us can pretend to be the racist coworkers and kind of saying the type of things that they would normally say, so you can get some practice in terms of just how you respond, what to say. I think one of our listeners wrote in about that and saying that he doesn't feel quite as comfortable in terms of being able to give a quick, snappy retort. And the thing that I would say is, don't feel compelled like you have to say something immediately. If you need to take a moment to think about whether or not anything need be said at all, that is always advisable. Or if it's, I do think something needs to be said and I am going to say something and I just need to take a moment to gather my thoughts about what I'm going to say, that's totally fine as well. Even if it's, I'm going to take 5 minutes and then come back and, excuse me, Bill, excuse me, Susan, you said a moment ago such and such and such, and this is my question, this is my response. Even that is fine. Don't feel compelled that you have to respond immediately with something snappy or have the correct question right then, if anything need be said at all. But I would have that in mind and even be thinking in advance, because that's some of the things. That's something that I try to do, just given all the different scenarios that people write in and talk about and what have you, to think about those when you are not at work, when you're on your leisure. And this doesn't have to be, a laborsome ordeal. You can just take 10, 15 minutes and think about some of the responses that you have heard, things that you've heard from other people. What would I say? Okay, this situation happened. Maybe I didn't give the best response or ask the best question. So what would I say? And just think about that, and even you can you can practice saying it so that you're more comfortable with how you want to say it, so that you don't come across as, oh my God, he yelled at me and that sort of thing. But just have that in mind and really make sure that you are not caught off guard. Don't be surprised. That's a major aspect of counter-racism. Expecting tackiness, expecting racists to practice racism. That's the way that we should be thinking, and just expecting more of it as we continue with 2016. I think Thomas asked in terms of workplace racism for me, in terms of operating the program. Certainly, as I think I've commented many times before, in terms of us being thrown off the air repeatedly, and why it's difficult in terms of taking all of this time to get our archives uploaded so everything is chronological. All of the programs that we've done, about 1,500 approximately, getting all those programs together because we have been disrupted and attacked for years that we've been on the air. I think I've talked about the people that came, the chimp out people that came and would just troll our site and leave all kinds of racist, nasty comments, calling us nigger and everything else. And I mean, this was a daily activity that just went on and on and on and on. And it wouldn't just be one comment. It would just be comment after comment after comment. Sometimes they would leave 10, 20 comments per day. So with that, certainly, as we have stayed on the air and more people know about us, certainly you can go online and read where non-white people and many racists have written all kinds of nasty things about Gus and their experience on the context of white supremacy. So it certainly has been challenging. I think I've said on the air before, if I was doing a radio program where we were not talking about white supremacy racism, it would be just astronomically easier. It would be a breeze. If we were just talking about, just the election, not racism, if we were talking about budget concerns, travel, ICE, anything under the sun except racism, man, it would be easy. I don't think we would have all of these disruptions. I think we could have been in the same spot. It's been easy for people to locate us and access all of our archives. It would be phenomenally easier, and we would not have all of the vitriol about us being on the program. It would just be a significantly easier task to host a radio program if we were not addressing white supremacy racism. And I'm pretty sure I have discussed that or shared that sentiment on the program before. It is totally true. Anything else folks want to get in, or everyone is satisfied? That is cool as well. Again, still seems like we have a sizable amount of spectators, which again, part of our job in working against racism, white supremacy, we should be getting out of the business of spectating, really making an effort to share. I'm pretty sure all the folks that are just listening, I don't think that you have a workplace situation that is free of racism, white supremacy. Certainly, if it is, then you certainly should be one of the first people to dial in to tell us how you did this. What have you done to minimize your problems and make it easier for you? If you are experiencing racism, again, you can write things down and just share an observation. If you have figured out some things to make it easier for you, we would certainly like to know that as well. But definitely want to encourage folks to get out of the business of just spectating. We need folks to be more active in utilizing the information that you get about racism, white supremacy, your own understanding and views, and applying that information. Very important. Anything else from folks, or folks satisfied? Right on. I suspect folks are satisfied. We will be back, tomorrow. We should have our book study session, Blood Brothers, The Fatal Friendship Between Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X. Normal broadcast time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We are about at the halfway point in the book. As Muhammad Ali gets more political, the book will get more political, and that will be picking up this week. I think Jackie Robinson will be making a cameo in the book this week. Certainly we'll be here for Saturday, compensatory call-in. We'll catch up on news, information, things that have happened over the past 7 days. Quite a bit has gone down. On Monday, most excited, I confirmed yesterday before we went live with Dr. Kevorkian talking about the purge, Sue Africa, the white female member of the MOVE organization. She will be with us this coming Monday. Normal broadcast time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And then Tuesday we'll be talking about the Dozier School of Horrors down in Florida. This has gotten a lot of attention, I think, over the last 2-3 years, specifically, where they started excavating the site of this former school and finding all of these bodies. where children had been abused there. Certainly there was a racial component, as it always is. We'll have a black author who's written about this experience. There was a documentary that just came out about this experience, the Dozier School, within this summer, like within the last few weeks. That would be another illustration. I think these are white filmmakers, and they did not want to come on the broadcast, which this incident, the Dozier School, I don't think you can talk about this without talking about racism, white supremacy. The vast number of reports that I have seen, this has been a ton, like this has got a lot of mainstream attention. The vast majority of reports that I've seen, it has talked about racism, white supremacy. This school, again, was in Florida, one of the bastions of white terrorism, and this is like in the 40s, 50s, 60s, when this school was operating, and talking about finding these bodies and what happened to these children, the abuse that happened there. Really ghastly material, but looking forward. And again, just stressing the importance of talking to children about racism, white supremacy, because they are not immune from the pathology of whites. Really, it's self-defense. It's the same way as, it's important to teach your children about fire. It's important to teach your children about safety if they're going to be outside, how to cross the street and what have you. It is certainly important, not just strangers, enemies. Black people, we have enemies. Those enemies are white. At any rate, we will call that a broadcast for the day. I did want to share, we did the program yesterday with Dr. Martin Kevorkian. When I wrapped up, I think most of the programs, when we conclude, for a while now, I've been saying about sobriety and, let's do what we can to minimize contact with enforcement officials. There was a black student who was sitting, I couldn't see him, but he was, I guess, kind of close to where I was seated. And we wrapped up the program, and I'm, doing my business, going about my day and what have you. And he came up and he said, that was really good what you said at the end there. And like I said, I didn't see him, so I wasn't really aware that he, could hear me or what he heard specifically. So I said, well, what did you hear? And he said about, just making sure you buckle up when you get in the vehicle and not being, intoxicated when you're in your car. Like, that makes a lot of sense to see, if you can kind of minimize some of these incidents that happened. And I said, yeah, I try to say that, as often as I can, just, little things that we can do to do from the weak position that we're in to just try and stay as safe as possible. And he said, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, man. You should keep saying that. Thank you kindly, sir. I will do so. I was glad he heard that. I said, I will continue to say that. And again, you can do everything perfect. I think that was demonstrated with Philando Castile. You can do everything perfect and still end up being killed, mauled, raped. That is the system of racism, white supremacy. I think, as I state consistently, it is about minimizing to the best of our ability the likelihood of this happening to you until we can successfully, permanently solve this problem. Just in the meantime, let's do everything that we can to minimize the likelihood of being terrorized as best we can, meaning sobriety would be best under conditions of white terrorism. We are being hunted. We want to be as clear thinking as possible so we can make phenomenal decisions to keep ourselves safe, ourselves and anybody that we might be responsible for. If you're going to be in a vehicle, a lot of these incidents happen to motorists, where white terrorists, they see a black motorist on the attack. Let's keep that in mind. Let's be sober if we're going to be driver, passenger, even as a pedestrian. Buckle up if we're going to be in an automobile. Again, let's just try to do everything we can to minimize contact with the Darren Wilsons, Daniel Holtzclaws of the world. Keep that in mind and tell your children if they're, teens and they're starting their driver career, this should be in the forefront of your mind. We have enemies. Be mindful. Keep that in the forefront of your thinking when you are out and about. That being said, again, we'll be back in about 24 hours. If you have questions, concerns, problems, feel free to drop us an email, untiljustice@gmail.com. The caller is 6309. Do you have something you needed to get in, workplace related, before we conclude? 6309.
Yeah, this is me. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah. So I've been wanting to call about my experience for a long time. I work in the DMV area, and I never really looked. I've always thought about racism, but I never really looked at it the way I have since I had this job. And so the interesting thing about my experience is that it's not necessarily just the white people that participate in it. It's also the non-white people. I'll put it this way: I feel like I've been being terrorized psychologically for the most part by a lot of the females on the job. I'll just give examples. Hello?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you.
Yeah, I'll give an example. Like, for instance, there's a non-white, non-black person at the job. She's first-generation Asian, and people are always like saying how good she is at her job. But the thing is that behind closed doors, when nobody's looking, she talks to me a different way, and they try to befriend the other black female that's there. And so, the way I see it, I think that they're trying to play us against each other. And because when the other black female came on the job, we seemed to be cool with each other. But after some time, she would talk about me to some of the other workers, and then I would hear about things that she said from the other workers. And so now I'm just at the point that I got to be honest, kind of slightly paranoid. So I just try not to stay around them. Problem is, I have to work with them. I have to work with them every day, and so that's probably the biggest issue I have at the job right now. I have addressed this to my supervisor, who's a white male, and he doesn't. The first time I talked about it, he's like, "Oh," he said, "I'm reading into things too much." But then later on, there was one time that the other black female, she was being rude, and she kind of, I'll just put it this way, she was not very cordial in an email with me. But that's the only time that my manager or supervisor noticed that there was people on the job were not being very civil. So he complained about the black female to me. So I'm just basically saying that what I've noticed at this place is that although it looks like it's just the females being mean, which that's the most obvious instance. I feel like sometimes it's like it's kind of an environment that it's being set up to look that way, that there's puppet masters behind that, or that they're being enabled to act that way. And unfortunately, because I don't fit that stereotype of the sassy, the type of black female that a lot of people seem to be comfortable with, I think that's part of the reason why I am being marginalized at this job. So I'm just trying to find better ways to deal with that. For the time being, I mean, I'm obviously looking for another to leave as soon as I can. But for now, I just want to find a better way to just manage the stress.
I'm sorry that you are having to experience that. I can certainly relate. I have that in the description for the program, and I think that's something that we try to address regularly. That the system of white supremacy, it contaminates our thought, speech, action, emotions, and how we relate to other non-white people. So that a lot of times on the job, we end up having a lot of conflict with other non-white people, whether it's a black supervisor or whether they're even our peers. On the job, that is, a pretty common occurrence. And I put that in the description in terms of part of our codification is figuring out strategies to minimize conflict with other non-white employees. I think some of the things that have been shared through the years where people have said that, it seems to have some level of success. If it's an email thing where you were saying where it seemed like this, I think was a black female who was talking to you and she was being kind of rude in an email.
Oh, yeah, I saved my emails, actually. I've been doing that since I've spoken with other people that have gone through this. Like, they told me basically a good thing to do is I actually have a couple of Word documents where I copy and paste and then screen capture, because a lot of times when they say these statements, it's through an instant messenger system. And a lot of times that you can't save that. So I've been saving my emails.
Awesome, where you can just document it. See if this has been going on for a while, which that's what you're telling us. If this has been going on for a while, where they've been making these kind of comments, I mean, you can just make book on that. So you'll have a big pile, of these kind of discourteous comments that are happening on the job. And just, is this professional? If the environment that we're in, if we're trying to promote efficiency and we're supposed to work together and we're supposed to try to get along in this environment so that we can get our work done, is this the type of commentary? Is this the way that we should be talking to each other? I think the other approach that I've heard people say when it's other non-white people that are being rude or talking to you in a way that maybe they wouldn't talk to a white person, because you felt like you said that they were kind of playing some of the black people and even some of the non-white, non-black people, kind of playing them against each other, or playing the non-white black people against the black employees, to frame it, well, is this the way that we should speak to everyone here? So however the Asian female, however she was talking to you, or even some of the black people, and you've got the statements all itemized and screenshot and everything, boom, boom, boom. So the way that they're talking to me, is it acceptable for me to talk to you? If you're talking to the white supervisor, is it acceptable for me to talk to you this way? Since it's supposed to be equal treatment on the job, is it acceptable for everyone to talk to everybody in the workspace in this manner? If the answer is no, shouldn't we promote courteous dialogue between all employees? And just have them answer that question.
Yeah. So you're saying I should bring that up with the mean. Just the other thing too. They have a little inside joke. They call themselves the Mean Girls Club. I've overheard them joke about that before. It's just this is the thing. I'm at the point. It's like there's nothing I can do because I'm first of all, I'm a subcontractor, so I'm not directly part of that company. Mm-hmm. And then secondly, because of that, I'm not well aware of everything that's going on all the time. Like there's plenty of times where information is being withheld from me. Oh. And then, yes. Or like for instance, I'll give you an example. Like today, I was supposed to run a meeting, and then at the last minute before that meeting started, the Asian girl, she was like, oh, by the way, this person's going to run the meeting. So they agreed upon something when I wasn't there, although we're supposed to be part of the same team. But she's the same person that complained to me about, I put something on the schedule that she didn't notice. I guess because she, sometimes you might look through a queue or a list and you might forget to add something to a schedule. Mm-hmm. And so I did that part because I was part of the team. And then she was really antsy about it. She sent me an email saying, "Oh, I wasn't aware of this. Like, who let you do this?" So it's almost like she was questioning my intelligence or my. It's like I was supposed to be reporting to her, but she's not my boss. And then it's kind of like she wanted me to. It's almost like she wants to control me, but the thing is that she's not my boss. So the thing is, I just try to CC my supervisor as much as I can when I'm speaking with her, because this is not the first time it's happened.
I think that's a good.
Right, when she just.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So yeah, it's not the first time it's happened, but I also I wanted to expose this more, but I don't know how to do that.
When you say expose this more, what do you mean exactly?
Well, in terms of it's very hard for me to explain this because these are like little things to some people, but after a while it adds up. Because it's almost like a psychic attack. Because it's very subtle. Like some of the examples I just gave you, where they might say something and. Like another example, like nitpick at whatever I do. Like I send something an extra week out, and it's not even bad. Sometimes it's good, but she'll send me an email saying, "Oh, didn't I tell you this time after time?" Well, and it's like it's no big deal. It's just I don't know. It's just that it's very subtle, and she likes giving me tips on things. Like, oh, I think this can help you out. And it's almost at the point, it's like, I don't know if she's helping me out of sincerity or that she's just trying to talk down to me like I'm an idiot. So, I'm at that point, it's like, I don't, I'm just on edge. I'm on edge at the job. So,
at least in my...
Unfortunately...
I was just going to say, in my opinion, that that is the desired effect that white supremacy is supposed to have for black people, to have us on edge all the time, on the job certainly, but really, 24 hours a day for our entire existence. That is the product of racism, white supremacy, and like I said, acutely on the job, to have that feeling of constant dread. Am I going to get in trouble? Am I going to be fired? Am I going to be reprimanded? Are they going to come and tell me that I did this wrong or that wrong, or tell me that I'm running the meeting and then come in and change it 5 minutes before? And, oh, you're not running the meeting. Please, who even said that you're qualified to run? That sort of thing constantly. And I think a lot of our listeners have attested to that sort of just regular nitpicking, the subtle layers of racism, and even coming from other non-white people, other victims of racism being involved in this sort of thing as well. I think in terms of the exposing, I think what you were doing about CCing your supervisor so they see the comments that are being made to you. My suspicion is that since you're subcontracted, that you're not like a quote-unquote an official part of the organization, that is probably contributing to some of this. If they are you were saying that you felt like it was the environment is setting it up for the non-white people to engage in this discourteous behavior and mistreating of you. If you're subcontracted, I suspect that they probably know that, and so that's contributing to it. Like, oh, you're not really one of us. You're not really a part of our team. You're just some subcontractor. You're not even really one of our employees. But again, I would just bring it with your supervisor in terms of is everyone supposed to be treated equally here in terms of how we talk to people, and really encouraging a professional conduct and how we speak with one another, how we're communicating on the job. Do we have a policy about that? And even ask specifically, do we have a policy about how we are supposed to communicate with other employees? Even if you're subcontracted, I'm working here. I'm doing duties. I'm investing my time and energy in this company. Do you have policies about how we're supposed to communicate with other employees? And if so, are we doing everything that we can to enforce that, to make sure that we're being courteous, respectful in how we treat other employees, if that makes sense?
Yes, it does. It does. That'll probably be a better way of doing it than, say, putting emotion into it. Like, because there was one time I did complain to him about people being rude and, just not being very courteous, like a lack of tact, which was a mistake that he made. I didn't make that mistake, but the other person assumed that I had made the mistake, and that's when I went to his office.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he told me I was reading into things too deeply.
Yeah, the emotional thing, that's something I know we stress on the workplace racism program specifically, really dealing with racism, period. I know that's something that I try to stress on a regular basis in terms of not being emotional about it, even though certainly it frustrates all of us. And that's what it's designed to do, to have us frustrated and just, get us to the point where you just get really flustered and you can't think clearly. I know for me, once I start to get really angered about something or really emotional, it's difficult for me to make the best decisions. And that's a part of the design. I think somebody mentioned that even earlier in the program today, where on the job, frequently it'll be whites, but a lot of times they can encourage victims of racism to engage in this behavior too, to just get you really angry. And so then you lash out and you say something, and then they come after you and say that you did something incorrect and we're going to reprimand you. And even if it's just you going to talk to your supervisor, even there, I think I said at the very top of the program, I would not go, I'm not making a complaint. I don't have a gripe. My feelings aren't hurt. I'm just talking about bottom line, for us to be efficient and effective in the workspace that we share, shouldn't we be working to speak to each other in a courteous manner? Wouldn't that be helpful for us being productive, getting things done, as opposed to us being discourteous and nasty in how we speak to each other, and really emphasizing, is everyone supposed to be talked to in the same manner? Because I certainly don't think it would. My guess is that these people that are being discourteous to you, they don't talk to the white supervisor like that.
No, they don't.
See,
and
I would just, if we are in this workspace together, it should be equal protection. Everybody should be treated the same in terms of how we're talking to one another, how we communicate to one another, whether it's face-to-face dialogue, whether it's electronic communication, an email,
Hello?
or a text. Oh, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay.
I can hear you now.
Oh, right on. Yeah, but it should be in terms of just having standards about how we communicate with each other in a professional, business-like manner. This is not us, out just in our leisure or what have you. This is us in the job. We're trying to get things done. There should be standards about how we communicate. Those would be the points that I would try to emphasize, and just asking, do we have company policy about how we communicate with other employees and being courteous, and policy about everyone is supposed to be treated the same, that it's not supposed to be some sort of setup where these employees are considered lower grade and you're down here on the hierarchy, so you can be talked to any old kind of way, but then the boss or the managers or supervisors, they're up here, and so you have to talk to them in a different type of way. Unless that's what the policy is, then everybody should be talked to in a courteous manner, and what are we doing to enforce it? That's the way that I would try to go with things, in addition to some of the things that you're already doing, CCing your boss so that you have a record of the type of things that are being said to you, so that this is not a one-time thing and it's not isolated even to one person, that it seems to be a lot of people engaged in this discourteous behavior that, can impact effectiveness, efficiency on the job.
Okay.
Certainly.
So, yeah, that sounds like it would be helpful.
And
I'll do a follow-up.
That's what I was going to say. Let us know. I appreciate, feedback from people who have these issues or what have you, and apply some of the techniques that you come up with yourself, or suggestions that you get from this segment. Follow up and let us know how it goes, if it's logical, what they say, because we all learn. I'm still learning myself. We all learn, I think, when people, when they go out, they have these problems and try to see if they can get it solved. I think that can be helpful, because it's not just you. It's tons of people that are having this exact same problem with folks being nasty and rude and suggesting that you're incompetent and you don't know anything, you're not qualified to do this, or just trying to nitpick and say you did this wrong, you did that wrong, you did this wrong. It's tons of black people are going through that exact same experience. We heard from some of them just during the course of the broadcast this evening. But before we almost did our three, just any of the folks listening in, did you all have any suggestions you wanted to add to the female caller who just shared? Any additional thoughts to share, suggestions? I reckon they didn't. Anybody else? The caller is 6241. Did you have a suggestion, thoughts you wanted to share with the listener?
Can I be heard?
Oh, yes, Thomas in New York. We can hear you.
Yeah, I totally understand where she's coming from, because being a temp, I'm sort of like a contractor worker too, so it's only but so much you could go to the people complaining about. You work for someone else, and that person you work for is worried about their bottom line, so it's very difficult in that position. And I kind of feel for her, definitely.
For sure. The caller is 6241. Oh, wait a minute. That might be. I'm just making sure I didn't miss anybody. 6241, did you have any suggestions for our listener, or were you calling for something else? 6241.
Yes. I don't have any suggestions for the caller.
Oh, okay. Did you had just something on your own that you wanted to address in terms of workplace racism?
Yes. Good night to the host. Good night to the other callers. Really appreciate the show, this program. And the incident I would like to share about workplace racism. Again, I'm calling from New Orleans, Louisiana, where I work in a middle school, and I've been experiencing some difficulties, some racism by two white teachers, female teachers. And actually today, on my way to work, I had some problems with my vehicle, and I had to pull over and kind of broke down, and needed to get towed. So I called my supervisor, one of the female teachers, white teachers, and I let her know that my car broke down the highway, and I'll be coming in a little late. And she said it was fine, and just keep her updated. So I waited for and I asked her to, send out the email, to the team and, to the principal, let him know I'll be late for the PD. So took my car to the tow shop, whatnot, and when I got to work, the principal, he actually asked me, what happened, if everything is okay. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, did you get the email from the teacher about why I was coming late? And he said no. And that was kind of surprising to me, But to me, it appeared like she purposely didn't inform the team that I was going to be late. And she actually did that to another black male teacher yesterday. He had an emergency at lunch, and she didn't let anyone know that he was going to be returning late from lunch. Yeah, these teachers are really refined with how they practice racism, whether it's, maliciously trying to change my schedule or not following protocol, whereas when someone is going to be late, and they report to the supervisor in turn has to let the team know that, this person is running late or whatnot, so they can kind of set you up, Mm-hmm. It appears to the rest of the team that that you're just showing up late and not informing anyone. And also earlier this week on Tuesday, they had some icebreaker thing they call, to get to know each other in the PD. And there were teams, like 3 teams, 6, 7, 8 grade teams, and we had to play this kind of game. Like it's something similar to like flag football, but you really know football, but you just gotta like grab the other person's flag. And as the game was playing, the team that I was on ended up with 4. We had 4 players still playing with flags, and the other team, 1 white teacher. It just so happened to be the teacher that I reported to the director that stopped teaching the class and we put on a video with monkeys. I don't know if you guys were familiar with last week when I called in. So she was left on the other team, and me and 3 other non-white black teachers on the other team. I don't know how it ended up like that, but when I kind of saw the visual, I stepped back and I let the 3 of them, grab her flag or whatever, but I just kind of stepped back and stopped playing. And, they were like running around and whatnot. But after the game, we got a text message that some people felt that our team was being too aggressive with how we were grabbing the flags, and some people felt not safe with people grabbing at them. And I saw this coming. I saw this coming because it was 1 black female and 3 black males, 4 of us, and 1 white female. So I immediately just stepped back from that scenario. But she said that she didn't feel safe having people grab at her or whatever. But if you don't like people grabbing at you, or if you have some kind of phobia of that, why play flag football? Like, why play a game that involves people reaching up, grabbing at you? So I just thought she was, deliberately practicing racism, saying that she pretty much felt scared or whatever. But just a whole bunch of tacky behavior over the last 2.5 weeks. and the director of the school, he's a non-white, non-black male, and we had some conversations. He actually invited me out to lunch, and we talked about what happened last year, and he was pretty much telling me like, I should have came out and like told her, like called her out on the racism, and told her like, pretty much I should have like told her she's being racist by doing that, and I told him that I said to him that I cannot accuse her of being racist because I do not know, I tried as much to stay as codified as possible, and I let him know that I just wanted this incident to be documented, so if this happens again, then we can see a pattern and you would know what to do, but I cannot tell you what to do. He is under a lot of pressure also. That's what I recognize, because like he tries to I guess somewhat empathize with the racism on the job, but he never really addresses it. And he tells me, and like when we have like private sit downs, he tells me like, yeah, we're doing a bad job of addressing it and whatnot. And my response to him is that if this is a problem and we're not talking about it, then it's not going to get fixed, And that's pretty much my workplace racism for, I guess, this week. It was a whole lot of tacky behavior, but that's pretty much it. Thank you.
To be expected.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I'm even stepping back because we spent so much time talking about Hurricane Katrina and all the devastation. What they did to the school system down there was a major component of that, and we even had some more recent programs with Anitra Brown, where she was talking about just the continued onslaught against the school system down there, and predominantly filled with black children. That is a whole specific study in and of itself of white supremacy racism with the area of education down there. But with the first problem or incident of terrorism that you explained, with that, I would address it. And again, same thing. You don't have to indict anybody, but I would just say, unless I've been misinformed, this has happened more than once where someone had an emergency and they reported it, but the information was not successfully communicated to all other staff members that the person had an emergency and that they were going to, be late to school or whatever the case is, but the information was not successfully conveyed. Is there a way that we can make sure that this problem does not happen anymore, so that if with all the technology that people have now, that if I'm on my phone, I can type out a sentence or two and email it, and bam, it'll be there, or a text message, or all of the above, so that it will not just be in the hands of one person who, whatever reason, they might get busy or forget or whatever happens where the information does not get conveyed. Is there a way that we can correct this problem so that this doesn't happen again? So if something comes up, you can just send a text or an email and it will go out to multiple people. That way, the people that need to know, I have an emergency, my car broke down or whatever happened, and I'm going to be a little bit late. The people that need to know that information will know, so that nobody is left saying, oh man, I didn't even know. You didn't even bother to let us know that you had an emergency, just so that doesn't happen again. That would be my recommendation for dealing with that. If that means that I text multiple people on the job, so that this is not just in the hands of this racist to do her job and pass this information along. If there's at least one other staff member there that and have a rapport with, you can let him know. Or even if the principal or whomever at the school who has more authority, they can devise something with it. You can text multiple people or you can email multiple people, and that way the information will get out. That's how I would deal with it, so that I just never again put this solely in this person's hand. If that's the protocol that you're supposed to contact this individual, fine, but I would also try to let as many other people know as possible via whatever communication is at my disposal. With the second one, I think that's a great observation. And again, I think part of that is just having a better understanding of racism, where you can kind of see that dynamic already. Having this lone white woman, race soldier, and she's going against these exclusively black males on this team, and they're kind of pursuing her or whatever the case is, how that could end up going. And then it was confirmed that that's exactly what happened. I would even recommend, just on the basis of that alone, that someone said that they were not comfortable, maybe we can find a different game to play, so that way we're not doing anything where we are grabbing at people so that nobody feels uncomfortable. We certainly don't want to encourage any uncomfortable touching or putting people in a position where they just, do not feel safe, or it's a game that they're just not enjoying. Let's find a different recreational activity. That would be so that we never engage in this game again. And that you don't even have to bring up racism. Just, hey, someone expressed that they weren't comfortable. Let's pick a totally different game next time so that we don't have this problem ever again. I think that was a extremely intelligent move, just understanding racism, white supremacy, recognizing that dynamic, and you backing away before it happened. And then my next recommendation would be, let's find a different recreational activity altogether. I'm sure there are lots of other games that we could play. I don't know what the purpose of this is, if this is supposed to be a team building exercise or just having fun because it's summertime or whatever it is, but I'm sure there are a litany of other things that we could do that would accomplish the same purpose and would not involve anything where we're having to do any aggressive clutching or grabbing at other staff members. We did 3 hours plus. Hopefully, we gave out some information that will assist some folks, better understanding of racism and possibly some better ideas, strategies that you can apply on the job. I definitely appreciate the follow-ups. If folks, if you call in, if you hear something, or if you share specifically and people share some ideas about things that you could do on your job to address some of your problems or what have you, follow up. Let us know what happened. If you even come up with your own strategy, say, hey, Gus is talking crazy. I'm not going to listen to him. This is, I'm here. I'm the most informed person about my situation. This is the strategy that I'm going to use. Let us know how it goes. And again, we always, myself first and foremost, and others, always appreciate that because it just provides more tools that we can use to try to solve this problem. So certainly follow up. As always, you can email untiljustice@gmail.com. untiljustice@gmail.com. If you're not able to participate live, you can email it in and we'll read it on the program. But certainly appreciate all the folks who shared, whether you called in live or wrote in. And we will look forward to doing it again next week, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, every Thursday, same time, Context of White Supremacy. We will call that a wrap. And again, you can drop an email if you want to follow up with anything there or have any questions. We will be back in about 24 hours. And just again, thanks to everybody for participating. Hope it's been a constructive investment of your Thursday evening. Creator, we ask that you help us remain patient with other black people, victims of white supremacy. We ask that you help us remain patient with ourselves. Remind us to demonstrate the highest levels of black self-respect at all times, in all places, each and every time we are in contact with another black person. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Context of White Supremacy signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed. I'm a victim, brother. Problem. You're a victim. I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning. Shut up. The man has programmed my conditioning. Mm-hmm. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.